Hi, Erica. Are we, excuse me, all on?
We are. The full board is here. I'll take a quick roll call and then we can call the meeting to order.
Great.
Chair Danielle Spicer,
Here?
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Present.
Peter Driscoll,
Present.
Eric Nyland,
Here.
Mark Craig,
Here.
and James Barr.
Here.
Okay, we're good to go.
All right. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could just zoom in a little bit on the agenda.
Sure.
Erica, your audio is cutting out a lot.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing. I can see if it fixes itself, but we'll call the meeting to order. The first one's going to be discussion for Houghton Farm Subdivision. Mr. Bradley seeks a minor modification to the approved site plans to eliminate some of the stone check dams along a portion of drainage swales within the subdivision. The planning board to review punch list items required to complete as part of the road acceptance. Is Mr. Bradley here?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Peter. Would you like to go through the minor modification changes?
Peter, if you'd like me to take the wheel here, I'm happy to. Let me know.
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm Greg Roy with Dillis and Roy, formerly Ducharme and Dillis. I'm here tag team with Peter this evening to give him a little support. So I prepared a letter dated last December 2nd, last week, relative to the check dams that we had shown on the approved subdivision plans. So just for a little context, this subdivision was designed as a with the sort of a low impact drainage design with swales on both sides of the road. So it's not a conventional catch basin and storm sewer type system. And the swales, in the swales, we had proposed some stone check dams in various locations. And those stone check dams are installed to control velocity, really to reduce erosion, the occurrence of erosion in a swale situation. Well, the road was constructed, I'm just going to say nominally 10 years ago. It may have been 8, but quite some time ago. And the stone check dams were not installed. And lo and behold, the swales are holding up really well. And I think the reason for that, and I think my letter addressed it, is that it's a very shallow slope that we have in those swales longitudinally. So you don't have the opportunity for a high velocity condition in those swales just because of the shallow slope that exists in the swales, and that's by design. And if you've driven into the subdivision, you can probably appreciate how flat the road is, and the swale mimics the grade of the road, so it's just like 2 or 3 feet lower than the centerline grade of the road. So it's really the same grade. And then we also designed them to be very wide so that for a couple reasons. One is to try to make them blend in a little bit better and not be that typical, like real harsh channel or ditch that you'd see on the side of the road. We designed them with a 1-on-6 side slope so that they could be actually even drivable, but certainly drivable with a lawnmower, so that we could really get a good mow. And really the intention was really to blend in with people's front yards. That large cross-sectional area also acts to reduce the velocity the velocity potential of runoff there. So all that being said is when we looked at this, given that we haven't had any issues sort of anecdotally in the past, I'll call it a decade. I'm saying that nominally, but in a number of years. And that when we kind of look at it, the velocities there don't really rise to the level that we think that check dams will really create any improvement to the situation that we have there. So we're asking you for a waiver to waive their installation. You know, it's just nice to be able to mow and make it look like the lawn, I think is sort of the intention there. So that's our rationale. I'm happy to take any questions. Peter, feel free to fill in the blanks if I'm missing anything, but.
Look, you hit everything, and once again, I think the homeowners would prefer not to see him if not needed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sums it up for me. I understand, especially when you mentioned that it's a 6-to-1 slide slope instead of, you know, what we typically would see, maybe a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 in a very flat longitudinal. I would think that makes sense that they don't necessarily need to be needed. And you've seen, you know, 8 to 10 years of evidence of it actually working as is. So I'm okay with this. Does anyone else on the board have questions about this minor modification?
Did
No.
Fred or someone else review it? Erica?
Yes, Fred was on the, was at a site visit the day that Greg Roy and Peter were discussing the check dams, and he is fine with not installing the check dams. Did you hear that, Danielle?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That was very clear.
Okay.
So if no one else from the board has any questions, would someone from the board put forward a motion?
I will make a motion that we waive is it 5? Is that the total?
Yes.
The 5 check dams that were on the original design plans for Houghton Farms to be removed and not included.
Second.
And then Erica, if you want to do a roll call for all those in favor?
Roll call. Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
Mark Sprague.
Aye.
All right, that passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And then I think that this was a 2-part. We want to review the punch list items required for completing part of the road acceptance.
So we're happy to go through that if it pleases the board, or if you want to go through it and have us respond, however.
Yeah, I think just basically we wanted just to kind of bring it up, put it up for everyone to see and just see if you had any questions or concerns about it. I think the majority of them are minor in nature, and we don't, at least I don't think there's any big issues, but just if you can kind of talk to them overall and your plan, that would be great once Eric is able to kind of bring that up.
Sure. Peter, I don't want to speak out of turn here. You and I didn't really talk too much, but I don't believe there's anything really of substance here. Is that your
No, the
position?
only thing is, out of everything, basically everything is I can address quickly in the spring. The only thing I think is kind of a waste is the sieve analysis for the gravel walkway. But if I gotta do it, I gotta do it. You know, it's a 3/4 inch gravel. It would be number 2 on the list.
Where'd you get it from? Did you get it from Keating, or, you know,
I think it was Graves.
Graves? I mean, they may have something and may have some off the shelf that they can give you. I don't know.
Okay, I can.
So you don't have to grab a sample, you know, if it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like pretty well graded stuff, so, or pretty uniform stuff, so
Okay.
they may have
I can do that. I can go to Graves. I can do whatever.
Graves usually does. That's all.
Yeah.
That's, so then, so yeah, I think in summary, we don't have to go point by point. We really don't have a problem with any of these.
Right.
And, we think we're in pretty good shape. I wanted to give the board an update on the plans, because I do note that there's a request to get those in as soon as possible. So take a number. All my clients want things as soon as possible. No. We actually have the plans pretty much ready to go. We were just waiting to really update them for the finished paving. I know that's been done for a few months now. And just a couple of other details that we have to add on there. So the road as-built plan is in pretty good shape. We should be able to get that to you very shortly. And the same thing with the street acceptance plan. We have all that kind of started. All the bounds have been set. We set those about it, I guess, probably over a year ago now. So we're in very good shape with both of those plans. So we should be able to get those into you fairly soon. I would say next couple, let's call it before Christmas.
Okay, that'd be great.
But there is one other hiccup on the number 7. I don't know if the email from the installer was acceptable
Can you scroll down, Erica, to number 7?
on the block wall.
Oh, no. Oh,
So, yeah. So Niche has an item in their most recent site inspection report that recommends the contractor and the engineer for the wall manufacturer should review and confirm the stability of the segmental block retaining wall. So I'll need to follow up with Niche Engineering about that email if that's sufficient. I had sent it to Fred, but Fred deferred to Niche since they're inspecting currently.
yeah, we could follow up with that too. So that wall, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but my recollection was one of those blocks had really shifted. I mean, it was really noticeable.
It looked like they would when it was built. I wasn't involved at this part. When we dug it up, there was no stone around it, and I think the frost just got under it and pushed it.
Yeah.
And it also happens to be one of the top blocks in a section that is I'm guessing about 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet in height. So I don't think it presents a safety issue.
And my point was that it's been fixed because, there's no, there was like I remember it being like 6 or 8 inches, like you could.
Oh
really,
yeah, it looked
block
like
could really move. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, and it was on the end. It was on the end of the wall. If you're standing on the street, looking off the edge of the wall, so to speak, it was to the left, and it was on one of the far ends where it's not as tall. So it was not in the vicinity of the culvert. So it certainly wasn't anything, related to the structural integrity of that. It was more of on the far left-hand side where it was tying into the existing grade. So, but we can try to follow up with that. I can look, I might have some pictures of that in the file. I'll have to look back where we can compare what it was before to what we have now, kind of thing. So
if you were to look at figure 16, it would be the second block in to the right.
Right.
It was that one there.
Right. So I can look to see if we have a picture of what it looked like before, so we can kind of provide the board some documentation and Niche some documentation on that.
So you said there's no gravel under it or behind it, or what was it about the gravel?
There was no stone behind it. These walls should be built with stone right up behind it. And I don't know why it wasn't, but in that particular area, maybe they thought where they were at the end, there was no stone. So any water was just getting trapped in the dirt and the frost just pushed. Instead of, the stone kind of acts as a little bit of a buffer for the frost.
Yeah, yeah.
And it lets the water run out. So.
Keeps the frost going.
And we know that stone was installed the rest of the wall?
We would have to
Yeah.
through inspections. I wasn't around then. So.
Yeah, I mean, that was really the the more significant portions of that wall where it was high were definitely inspected by Fred during construction. I think this was just, to Peter's point, I think it happened because we're on the end and the stuff, for whatever reason, when they're backfilling, they just got a little sloppy on the very end of the wall. And it, like Peter said, it's only a few blocks high. It's not one of the ones where it's like, approaches 8 feet or whatever we have there. So I think it was just an area where there wasn't maybe enough stone put in, and so when they fixed it was my understanding that they had to excavate behind the wall, open it up, reset the stone, and then backfill it with reset the block and then backfill it with stone.
Yeah.
So they did take remedial action on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can look, I'll try to look back through the record, Mark, and see if I can find some more documentation on it.
Greg, you're saying they took action on it after this picture or before this picture?
Before this picture.
Okay.
So this picture is just a week ago, and it's been repaired now for a number of years, Peter, if my memory is correct.
Yeah. Well, at least a year. At least a year, yeah.
But Niche is still calling it out as an issue, though, right?
Well,
So I can speak to that a little bit. The reason that Niche is calling it out is because it was on Fred's report.
Gotcha.
I think his last report was either from 2019 or earlier in 2020. After our site visit on December 1st, I did call Fred about this because I wanted to better understand, what his expectation was with that comment. And he did say he just wanted them to fix the block that had come out. He was not expecting a structural engineer to review it or anything like that. He just wanted confirmation that the block had been repaired. So.
Okay.
But these pictures are new, right?
This is new, yes.
Okay. So even though it was backfilled properly, the block still came back out?
It's not out. I don't know if I don't know if it appears that way, but no, when we were out there, we were standing up on top of the wall and they're not, the block isn't protruding. As far as, I'm not a structural engineer, but it looked corrected.
Okay.
That picture, that hasn't changed since it's been repaired. That's right where it was. Where before it was really moved out.
Okay.
so if it's acceptable with the board, I'll try to work directly with Fred and Niche to try and resolve this in a manner that's satisfactory to both of them, if that's okay.
Yeah, that works. I mean, that sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Danielle, just a couple of other things relating to this. There is relating to Houghton Farm in general, there is a common driveway that services a certain number of homes up there, and they're almost complete with that driveway as well. There are a few outstanding items that are going to be addressed in the springtime. And I assume at that point, Dillis and Roy will submit as-built plans for the common driveway, but that's not related to the road acceptance process. So.
Yeah, that's correct. And we actually have a lot of that work done as well. Again, we're just waiting on the last, I know there's some bituminous berm that needs to be installed. And the time when we did the survey, which is a little while ago now, there was still a few things that needed to be cleaned up. So we'll clean that up and get that as-built submitted. And yes, that will be a separate standalone common driveway as-built plan, separate. So that'll be a third plan. We'll have the road as-built, the street acceptance plan, and then we'll have a third plan that will be the common driveway as-built.
And you think we can get those plans by the end of the year?
Definitely the road ones. I'll have to get back. I think the road ones we've set as a priority because we're shooting for, that needs to get into the right hands and be approved in advance of the town meeting. The common driveway doesn't need to go to town meeting. So I think we'll follow up after we get the road plans done. We'll follow up with finalizing the common driveway plan, if that's acceptable.
And we can't do the berm and some of these repairs till spring anyways.
Right. I can't, yeah,
Okay.
and the as-built plan, I could submit the as-built plan without the berm on it, but then you're just gonna tell me, well, update the as-built plan with the berm when it's installed, so. We'll get it to a point where we're ready to pull the trigger as soon as we can place the berm, and there might be a few other minor things that we need to clean up on there.
Okay.
And Danielle, I just think it's important to relay this to Peter and Greg. This is in using the Board of Selectmen guidelines for the student acceptance process. I've backed into dates as to when things need to be submitted and reviewed by the Board of Selectmen. So
Okay,
based on their draft meeting schedule for the new year, they'll begin reviewing those as-built plans, likely at their meeting on February 25th. So I just wanted to make sure that that date was known.
okay.
Thank you.
And you'll want to have
And
that,
I will send this to you, Peter, so that you have this.
and you'll want
Okay.
to have that completely sort of signed off from peer review and this board before it gets to the select board, is
Before
that?
that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's correct.
ideally, if you look at the guidelines from Board of Selectmen, yeah, it's planning board and essentially all of the departments that would be involved. So it's really planning board, Department of Public Works and Conservation. Those are the big three that you'll want essentially a sign off from them, knowing that you're ready for road acceptance.
okay, all right. What's
Okay.
if I might ask, has there been a change in the DPW director status, or?
There has, yes. So we do have a new DPW director and his name is Randy Hagelin.
Okay,
And he is aware, I've done a couple of, we didn't go to Houghton Farm. We've done a couple of other site visits together and he is aware that this is coming forward.
okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay, I think that was just, that pretty much, as long as you, you guys are all okay with the punch list items that we've noted, and we've just gone over the timelines, and we'll be getting the as-built soon. I don't think there's too much more to discuss. It sounds like, this will be on the docket for, putting forth to town meeting for vote acceptance.
Super.
Did anyone else on the board have any questions? No? Okay. Did you guys have anything else further you wanted to discuss?
I'm all set. You good, Peter?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it.
Thank
good
you.
All right. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you Greg, for coming too. Thank you.
No problem.
So we're about 6 minutes early. Do we have meeting minutes? Yeah, from October 28th and November 10th. We can open up now.
Sure. Would you like me to bring them up?
Yeah, let's bring those up and we can take care of those in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, here are the meeting minutes from November 10th.
Okay, for some reason your volume did go down on that one.
I am sorry. I don't know what's going on with my
Okay.
computer tonight.
Oh, now you're clear.
Is that better?
Um,
Okay.
Yes.
So these are the meeting minutes from November 10th.
Okay. I actually reviewed them quickly beforehand, but did anyone else have any questions or comments on the meeting minutes from November 10th?
I do.
No question.
Does the board need any longer time to review them? No? Okay. Does someone want to make a, actually, let's look at October 28th first before we make a motion.
Since we're looking at this, the bond has been posted for 649 Main Street.
So it says.
Erica, I don't think I was at the October 28th meeting, right?
Correct, I have you absent.
Okay. Oh, I saw my initials. Okay.
Oh, did I put your initials somewhere? Let's see.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do that. Let's see.
No, I'm just like below. Or maybe it's just the header. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I just sort of presumptuously thought that the board would approve these tonight.
Okay, I was just
Oh,
gonna
okay.
ask about the December 9th date as well. So I was confused.
That's
did anyone have
language
any-
that the town clerk is now requesting.
Gotcha,
for-
okay. Did anyone have any questions or comments on the October 28th meeting minutes?
Nope.
Hearing no. Did anyone want to put forward a motion for approving the October 28th and the November 10th meeting minutes, 2020?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 28th and November 10th.
Second.
And Erica, can you roll call for approval?
All in favor, Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
and Mark Sprague.
Aye.
All right, passed unanimously. All right, we'll give it maybe one more minute and then we'll jump onto the A&R plan. All right, it's 7:29, so I think it's close enough. Is that okay, right, Erica?
I think it's
Within a minute or so?
fine. I think
Okay.
I saw Jack Maloney
And
on
he's
the
on.
call. Yes.
Okay, great. So Mr. Maloney is going to seek endorsement of an A&R plan to subdivide parcel 4D 101 located off of Meadow Road into lot 4, parcel A and parcel B. Parcel 4D 101 was previously part of 96 Long Hill Road. Mr. Maloney seeks input from the planning board whether a common driveway will be required as part of the future development of parcel 4D 101. So thank you, Mr. Maloney. If you want to go ahead.
Erica, do you want me to share my screen to show the plan?
I have the plan here. I can bring it up.
Okay.
Actually, Jack, do you
Go ahead.
mind if I just show the previous A&R plan that was submitted just to give the board a little bit of context before
Sure.
you get started? Okay, great.
Go right ahead.
So planning board, this is the A&R plan that was approved back in 2016. This is the entire parcel that was once 96 Long Hill Road. That's the Wilson Farm. At that time, the board subdivided it into 3 lots. Now the applicant or the owner of the remaining land would like to further subdivide lot 1 off of Meadow Road here. So this is the farm, and then this was another frontage lot that was then developed. So we're referring to this lot here. Okay.
Okay, so as Erica showed you, this is the remainder piece from the farm, and we are looking at subdividing lot 4, which is right smack in the middle of this big parcel here. At some point in the future, we will be looking at subdividing further this parcel B and parcel A, but that is for discussion after we get through this. So basically that's it. I mean, it should be pretty basic, I would think, right? I don't know what else I can explain about it.
That's okay. And I think what we're seeing right here with the A&R with the 3 lots, they all meet the requirements. They're all 3 frontage lots and meeting, like there's nothing that doesn't meet the A&R plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
or the A&R requirements in it. So I think, oh, sorry, go ahead, Erica.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, Danielle, maybe it would, if Jack was in agreement, perhaps it would behoove the board if we looked at a concept plan that showed further development of this parcel. However, you know, I don't know if Jack wanted to take a look at that.
That's up to the board. More than willing to do that. Do you mind if I share? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, the concept plan would be helpful. I think the A&R is pretty straightforward, but if we can look at the concept plan to just discuss, you had asked to discuss whether, you know, with regard to the common driveways and whether they'd be required. I think that would be helpful to look at if that works.
Okay. Do you mind if I share the screen?
Sure.
Okay. So you have to stop, I think, Erica.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. How's that?
Yes, we can see
So-
that. Yep.
All right, so this is this just shows an underlay of the ortho image underneath. So this area right in here is where the farmhouse was or is. This is lot 3, which we've permitted already. And lot 4, the lot lines are a little bit different, but this is lot 4 right here that you're looking at tonight. And then we have lot 5 and lot 6 that will eventually be coming to the board. And then we also have lot 1 and 2. So this was the original concept that our office had put together a few years back. And I do have another actual working version of what is being proposed in the future, if you want me to jump to that real quick, just to show you what we're looking at.
Sure.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's this is Meadow Road here. This is lot 4. And then we have lot 5 up in the back and lot 6. So what we've done is designed a shared driveway for the 2 lots to the left, 5 and 6. Lot 4 has its own driveway. And then eventually lots 1 and lots 2 would have a shared driveway as well. And we haven't designed it yet. We haven't been asked to. Eventually it will come in over the side and meander up to the 2 house spots up on the hill.
Yeah, so you went from the previous plan had showed 4 curb cuts, whereas this one has at least reduced it down to 2. I mean, sorry, 3.
3, correct.
Yeah. I like that better.
So with the amount of cut there, would it be easier to have 4, 5, and 6 share a driveway? It looks like the driveway in 4 is almost right at the property line anyway.
We hadn't really looked at it because we thought that because of the timing of this, lot 4 would be a standalone driveway. And because we're still a few months away from being able to cut off these other 2. So, I mean, that's something that we could possibly look at going further. But yeah, I think you're right, Mark, that, you know, this area right in here could split off and come over to here, and then we would eliminate 1. I would have to talk to the owners about that and see what their feeling is on that. But, you know, if it's going to make the board happy, I think it would make them happy with just 1 driveway having there instead of 2.
And how much of a difference is there in the design to do it as 1 instead of 2?
Cost-wise, it shouldn't be that much. I mean, for us to change that, it shouldn't be that bad. But now you're getting into the common driveway bylaw versus the shared driveway.
Yeah.
So there would be more engineering in that because of the drainage and whatnot that's required.
There's nothing there right now, right? So this is as you come off Main Street, you come up Long Hill, you go left on Meadow, and we're looking at parcels on the right side of that.
Correct.
Correct.
And there is nothing at the moment. There's no curb cuts, no houses there for a little ways, I believe.
I think there's a couple of breaks in the wall, but yeah, that's about it.
Okay. And how far beyond the split of Meadow and Long Hill would the first curb cut be?
As we're showing it right now. So
It's a reasonable distance.
Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah, you've got-
as the crow flies, you're looking at about almost 750
Oh,
feet.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the first house on the left as you're coming in, right in here. So here's Long Hill Road. Here's the split to get onto Meadow. You have the first house on the left, and then this is all open down this way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would be, I mean, if the, owners would entertain eliminating that driveway to lot, is it lot 4? That's it by itself?
Yes.
Is that the right- Okay.
Yep.
I think that would be, I think the board would look at that favorably. If that's feasible.
Okay. So what does that do for tonight's hearing in regards to making this a standalone lot as it is?
So I think for tonight, I mean, we can review the A&R plan, as it stands, and we can, make a motion on that. And, just, I think it sounds like, I mean, if there's other comments from the board, please feel free to put them forth. But it sounds like, we'd like to see if, the owner would be willing to reduce it so that there's only 2 curb cuts along this parcel, as, moving forward with developing, once this is all finally subdivided and everything.
Danielle, what I can do also is, we'll move forward with the endorsement of the plan. And then when the applicant goes to submit a driveway application for that lot 4, that'll just be something that I'll be sure to note that triggers your review. Hopefully it's a common driveway, but certainly that discussion could also be had at that point. So if the board felt comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Did anyone else have any additional comments or questions?
Actually, I have one more comment now that I say that out loud. My only concern with that too is that you then sort of get into multiple owners. What's nice right now, and the reason why I wanted to have this discussion with the board, is that this entire parcel is under common ownership. So once we start subdividing these parcels off, I think it's going to be harder to control the driveway applications as they come in, because it's going to be different owners. So that's another thing to think about, and why it's better to have a plan in place prior, with some type of approval. So
what's the, I guess, I mean, obviously we're approving the A&R, but what's the additional approval that they would need?
well, perhaps, if the board could, it depends on how the board wants to handle it. If you want a motion to essentially say that you're recommending a common driveway between lots 4, 5, and 6, Jack could certainly go back to the owner to see if they're on board with that. If they're not, then perhaps it comes back to the board. That's a thought. I don't know.
Is there any traffic type situation there, or is it a pretty good point of view from the driveways?
It's pretty flat and wide open in this stretch down through here. I mean, if you got a straight shot both sides looking, if you're at the furthest driveway to the closest part of the curb, you're looking at about 335 feet that way. And this section of Meadow Road just pretty much keeps going straight. Maybe a couple little rises as you're heading back towards 117 on this end, but nothing that is going to obstruct your view turning on. from the driveway.
There should be good views, and it's not a super heavily traveled road, so a reasonable amount of traffic, but not terrible. But I think in general, if we can minimize the curb cuts, that would be definitely the preference.
Yeah, I think that seems to be like the overall consensus we've usually had on previous projects, is just to really, especially this is a perfect example of where you intend to subdivide it into multiple lots. It's just, our position has always been to try to minimize those curb cuts as much as possible. And I think you've done a great job at already showing, combining a couple of them. I think if we can just move it from 3 down to 2, that would be really advantageous from the board standpoint.
It's very close to being able to go to 1, but I won't push the issue.
Kind of a long traverse to get from one side back.
That
over
would
to
be,
the other
yeah.
property. Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Well,
I think 1 might be a little too long.
Well, you've got the 2 coming down that join, off of lots. Well, I assume that'll be, or off parcel A, whatever that is. And those could almost do a straight shot over to where the elbow and the lot 4 driveway is, but I'm not going to push that one. That's a little bit further than tying 5 and 6 in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can go back to the owner and, see what they are interested in doing, and, getting back to Erica as soon as I find out what's going on, and which way we should go with that, or which way makes the most sense. So, and, I understand the board's point of view in regards to keeping the curb cuts down to a minimum. So,
I mean, I think it may be a little bit more in engineering, but I think the reduction in site work in lot 6 would more than pay for it. If you get rid of all of that cutting down, going down across there, I think that'd be a big savings.
Yeah, actually, I think it's lot 4. Everything in front of lot 4, that whole driveway would go away. So you would be able to keep all of that existing. Yeah, all of that. You'd be able to just keep it.
I wasn't sure if you were keeping lot 4 driveway or lot 6, but either way, I think that you're getting rid of a big section of cut there that wouldn't need to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And I think that would keep conservation and everybody else happy on it too.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, does someone want to put forth a motion to approve the A&R? Actually, Erica, if you want to show the A&R plan that was.
Oh,
put
sure.
forth. Oh, sorry. Yeah, just check had the screen.
So is the motion to just approve the A&R plan for parcel 4D-101? Is that what we're looking for right now?
I think that's the first motion. That we just keep it clean just for the A&R plan.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, so I will make a motion to approve the A&R plan for parcel 4D-101.
Second.
And Erica will do a roll call for all those in favor.
Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
and Mark Sprague.
Aye.
All right, pass unanimously. Did the board want to put forth a motion with a recommendation with regard to the common driveways? Or
Erica, is that how you want to handle it? Do you want us to make a motion?
I think that would be helpful, just so that I could, I could have that on record.
So I will make a motion that the planning board recommends combining the driveway from lot 4 with, is that parcel, sorry, is
I
that
think it was
parcel?
5 and 6.
Well, they don't exist yet. So in that plan.
Parcel
that's
B.
right.
Yeah,
Parcel
parcel
B.
B.
Yeah, parcel B. Yeah.
Planning board recommends combining the driveways of lot 4 and parcel B for any future development
Second.
into a common driveway.
Second.
And roll call for all those in favor.
Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
Eric Nyland,
Aye.
And Mark Sprague.
I,
All right, pass unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'll be in touch with you soon, Erica.
Great, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
thank
too.
you too.
So I think we're about 13 minutes early. So do we want to review some of the potential articles, Erica?
Sure, if you don't mind just giving me 1 minute, my pen just ran out. I just want to grab
sure.
another one. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Do we have to come in to sign those A&Rs sometime, Danielle? How are we doing that?
I'm guessing we'll probably have to do it similar to what we did before. She'll put it in the box
Yeah,
outside
Yeah.
town hall and we'll kind of visit it. We can
That
ask her when
works.
she gets back, but that's what I'm guessing.
that's good for me.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Good time for a break. So did Brandon leave Ducharme and Dillis? Is that what happened there?
He actually works for Ross Associates now.
Okay.
So I did hear Eric's question about signing of the ANR. So what I can do is I can
Yeah.
place the A&R plan in the mailbox that's at the bottom of town hall. And if the board members over the course of a week could go and sign, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's
So it's
fine.
going to be at the bottom, not the top?
No, if you pull
right at
into
the
the
door?
town hall parking,
Yeah.
at the bottom entrance, there's a mailbox that's tall where I can put site plans in it. And I'll give you the
Okay.
code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and if you can just send an email out with a reminder and the code, I always forget the code in the email. That would be great.
I will certainly do that. Yep.
Thank you. So we still have 10 minutes. So do we want to just try to go through some of the comments on the articles?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Where would you like to start? Would you like to start with the accessory apartment bylaw?
Actually, why don't we wait? That one's going to be, I think, a longer discussion. So we
A
can wait for
longer
that.
discussion?
Yeah. So maybe it's, and we'll
Do
skip the road acceptance ones.
you want me to, why don't I start with one that we didn't talk about previously? I had a recommendation from our town secretary about the sign bylaw. So I
Yeah.
told her I would bring it up with the board to see if it was something that they wanted to bring forward as an article.
Is
we
this the one
start
that
with
comes up
one?
every year?
Kind of in a different context, it seems to, yes. Bear with me for just 1 minute and I'll pull up our current sign bylaw.
Erica, there's no need for me to sign the A&R, right?
No, there is not. We have a sufficient number of board members. But
Okay,
thank you
very
for
good.
asking. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so here is our current sign bylaw. And she had concerns about section F, temporary signs, when it speaks to particularly real estate signs. There's a section here that talks about not being able to add the additional word sold on that sign. She's found that a lot of realtors are sort of circumventing that requirement by using other words rather than sold. So she
Almost
wanted to
gone.
bring it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So she wanted to bring it to the board's attention and to see if this is something that you thought was worthwhile, very easily amending so that, whether it be sold or some other word, we're essentially covered.
Can I ask, what was the meaning behind not allowing the word sold? Like, is
Yeah,
it-
agree.
So my understanding in speaking with the town secretary, she had talked to the town administrator about it. And it's really just a way of limiting how long realtors keep their signs up. So rather than extending it by being able to put the word sold on it, that was the intention there, was to limit how long it would be up. Whether that works or not, I don't know.
I mean, was that really a problem? Like, I mean, once something's sold, typically the new owner is first thing they're gonna do is take the sign down. Like, I just don't
Yeah.
even understand the need for this.
I guess that's where I was coming from too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think it would be a matter of weeks probably we're talking about here, by the time the person closes and moves in, it's probably it's probably a short-term thing. But again, there was a concern and I said I would bring it to your attention. So,
I mean, I use the for sale, pending as a total barometer for how real estate's doing in the area to see
Yeah.
how quickly something moves to pending after the sign went up.
yeah.
So I mean, I don't have a problem with sold. I would actually say we should remove.
I was actually kind of agreeing with that. I mean, I looked at that, the same thing you just said, Mike, as being kind of, you drive around, you can see how things are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree too. Just get rid of it. Get rid of C.
I mean, I can see people, realtors convincing people to leave the sign up for an extended period, for advertising, especially if they're, if the realtor has helped them with all, with the closing and everything. I mean, I'm okay getting rid of it or just changing it to be, basically, something to the effect of the sign needs to be removed within 14 days or something of closing or,
Of a
something
closing.
Yeah.
Like that I would be okay with, and I would think would be understandable. Yeah, within 14 days of closing, the sign should be removed. I just think, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be allowed to use the word sold, I guess is.
I agree.
Yeah.
And this together, that was the standard word that, the standard thing everybody used.
Sure, yeah.
Sold signs for all of the other towns, so they would just use the same. So it was an easy way to kind of limit that. But I'd probably say change it to 14 days or something like that, but I'm okay just getting rid of it too.
I'm okay with replacing C and just say, temporary real estate signs shall be removed within 14 days after the closing. It at least has a time for, I mean, no one's going to really know the closing date, unless you look into it. But I guess if you saw a sold signed out there for, a couple months, you could then question it.
Yeah, or neighbors generally, when somebody new has moved in, and if the sign is up there for a long time, then they would, they would question it.
I mean, I just don't see it as an issue, period. I would love to know why this got added in there initially, but
That's what I was questioning.
As with most bylaws, somebody was abusing it, and leaving the signs up for extended periods. So it's just a way to kind of prevent that. But
I mean, maybe on a lot parcel or something where they weren't going to build on it for a while. I mean, if it's a house, the sign's going to come down immediately. Maybe if it's a parcel, they see it as, continuously advertising, even though someone might not, develop the land for months afterwards. So I think we should just add in a 14-day, replace C with a 14-day limit.
Replace it with,
Yeah.
All right, I'm good with that.
Should satisfy everything.
is the town clerk going to be happy with that?
It was actually the town secretary
The
that
town
brought
secretary?
that to my
Okay.
attention.
Okay.
You know, I think it's better than what's there now, certainly. You know, it is interesting. It's sort of an interesting bylaw because then it makes me start thinking about other temporary signs that you see when like a roofer replaces a roofing on a house and they have their small sign up for weeks on end. It's, you know, it's kind of a funny thing to want to control, I suppose. But
And that is,
You know,
the- I mean, that's the
are people's
homeowners.
days really getting ruined by these signs? It's kind of
Well,
crazy.
we did limit signs on political signs, or the time limits on
I think,
political
yeah.
signs, I think, right? And
Yeah.
no, we
said-
never did.
Oh, we
No,
didn't do
that would
that?
fall under the same category. And that was what the town clerk had, you know, concerns about. I think it was last year or the year before, and we considered that, and we decided that
We just
we
didn't do
didn't
it.
want to impede on someone's sort of freedom of speech or, you know, it's their property, being able to, you know, if they wanted to put up a political sign, they should be
That's
able
true,
to. So
yeah.
we didn't want to limit that.
Mm.
Well, there are also some court cases that we would have been fighting against, weren't there? On that one?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That could very well be. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is opening a can of worms. And since we already have something specific to the
real
sale
estate,
of, real estate, then I think it's fine just to amend this, put a time limit on it, and then be done with it.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, then I will, that's a very easy bylaw amendment to draft. I will have it ready for you guys at the next meeting then.
Great.
Okay.
great. All right, we're 7:58. I think we're pretty close and safe to go ahead and start. The 8 o'clock Keys Farm subdivision, if you can just jump, yeah, thank you. Mr. Pace to provide an update on the following: the driveway transitions, corrective actions relating to the drainage and erosion issues on lots 1, 2, 4, driveway widths, and then the planning board to review punch list items required to be complete as part of the road acceptance. So is Bob on?
Bob just called me. He just lost his internet at his house. He's trying to get it rebooted right this second. Can I call him real quick and see if he got it rebooted?
Okay.
Hold on one second.
I believe that was Jamie Harowich, who's the contractor.
Okay.
He said it'll be on in 2 seconds. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
For the board's review, I've pulled up Niche Engineering's most recent site inspection reports, one from November 14th and then one from November 16th. If you recall, on November 14th, the board had provided some leniency, allowing them to do the top coating on a Saturday. So that is what is reflected in this field report. At the same time, the board had asked that they take a look at the repairs at the slope at lots 4, 2, and 1. And then we can also review their site inspection report from the 16th when they were, the contractor was installing the driveway transitions.
You had sent a report for the 6th.
I did. So the 6th, I think, is relatively old. I don't know that it's even necessarily to open that one up and
Okay.
review.
Yep, that's fine.
We can if something comes up and we need to refer back to that, but I think that these two are probably more applicable with what's, you know, out there now.
Okay, yep.
Erica, how come I haven't get these reports? I just got it at 2:45 today. I thought I was going to get these as soon as they were sent to you guys. Me and Bob are going to get them right away.
I received them today from Niche Engineering, and that is something that I'm going to speak to Stephen about is I'm hoping to get these reports much sooner. So I understand your concern, and that's something I'm going to work on. But I did get these today, so I did send them as soon as I got them.
Yep, no, I understand. I didn't know whether you got them today or you got them before. I was just wondering why you just got them today.
Yep.
Let me call Bob and make sure he got
I'm
on.
here.
Okay, Bob's on.
Great, Bob. So if you
Danielle?
wanna, go ahead. Yeah.
Just one other comment. I don't see Stephen Ventresca from Niche Engineering was going to be on tonight. So I may just send him a quick email
Okay. Yeah. That
to
would
let him
be
know that
great, 'cause it
it's just 8 o'clock now, but I'll send him an email as well.
I feel better. I'm not the last one.
Danielle, I believe Stephen has joined the call, so I think we're set. Danielle, I think you're muted. No. Bob, Danielle is sending messages in chat, and she would like you to proceed with an update. Bob, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I'm just looking for chat. That's all. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Now I can't see everybody. Hold on a minute. That bothers me. I can't move that either. Okay. The top coat of the, okay, short and sweet. The top coat of the road got done, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. If you recall, this was supposed to be done. We had planned to do it on that Wednesday, which was the 11th. We had another planning board meeting because that was Veterans Day. Thursday, it rained. Friday, it rained in the morning. We we had requested the right to work on Saturday, which we did. It was cool in the morning. Niche was on site. They got us going around 10 o'clock in the morning. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the road was done. The aprons to the driveway was not. So Monday, we went back to do the aprons and basically what I had feared and why I had asked for either Niche or Erica to make a determination the last board meeting. It was after the 15th. Erica had called and said, basically, you can't do it. So we temporarily patched in the driveways, and that's where we are with the driveways. Prior to that, the work in the back of lots 1, 2, and 4 was completed. Not quite sure what else to update.
So I'm sharing Niche Engineering's inspection reports. And this shows some pictures of the paving that was the top coating that was done with the measurements they took, reading temperatures. Here's the equipment out there. This is the cul-de-sac area. At the same time, they had taken some pictures of the slope work that had been installed. And then I'm just going to flip to the inspection report from the 16th. And these were the driveway transitions that were installed that need to be redone either in the spring or sometime next year. So
I think just as a comment, it was noted that you guys finished paving of the road Saturday evening. You weren't able to do the driveway transitions, due to losing darkness and stuff. I think that's somewhat understandable, but what is a little hard to swallow here is that the driveways were just left until Monday with no transition at all. The residents were not able to get out of their driveway with their vehicles. They had difficulties. There was no installation of boards or anything to help them do that. So I think that's pretty tough right now. Yes, thank you, Erica, showing kind of this. I mean, there were several emails submitted with photos of the difficulties that they had. I mean, if there was an emergency and they needed to get out, I think some of them really weren't, their vehicles couldn't do it. So they had to kind of creatively figure out how to get out by Monday. So I think I understand that they've been patched. They're definitely a temporary patch because they're not, Niche reviewed that and they are not approved. So I think we've got some concerns with these driveway transitions.
Okay, again, it was a beautiful day that Monday. We just couldn't go any further because we didn't have planning board approval. So they are what they are. We know we have to fix them in the spring. Okay, to have someone there. And, considering the amount of daylight and the temperatures of when we were able to start, that's all we could do. Okay, nobody anticipated that. And we certainly couldn't work Sunday. Okay, so we went back there Monday and did a patch.
Hi, I would like to speak. Is it proper for me to speak now? This is Dan Costa.
Do we want to go? Yeah, I think that's
I
fine.
I raised my
But
hand.
before we open it up, why don't we get it all out and then?
Yeah. I'm directing my comments to the board, not to anybody else that is a part of this conversation. What I heard said was that time ran out and nothing could be done. I did email the developer and I did say that I am unable to get out of my driveway. can you please come and take care of this? And I got no response. I had to go about this myself to come up with a way that I could get my vehicle out. Okay. This was a danger to, if my wife, when she left, we were dependent on only her vehicle. If she was not home and I had to leave, I would be unable to take my vehicle out of the driveway. So it has nothing to do about time running out. It was at 2:30 when these workers stopped working and left. I'm sure there's other neighbors that can attest to this. So we're not going to sit, I cannot sit here and listen to an excuse that time ran out when there was still daytime remaining on that Saturday. And I sent an email on Sunday morning asking for someone to come and make it so I could drive my vehicle out. And I got no response. And I had to facilitate a way myself. Okay. So I can't sit here and listen to another. That's my comment. That's my comment.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that was one of the emails that the board had read and partly what I was referring to. So, I mean, it's after the fact now. We know that you have provided a temporary, patch there. I would just ask, in the future for stuff like this, leaving the residents in that type of situation is not okay.
Is unacceptable. Every word that was said by Dan is reiterated by myself, Larry Cedrone, 84 Moderator Way. It's we can't be asking kindly anymore because we're the residents, the taxpayers of Bolton, who look to our town leaders to give us guidance. We're not getting it at all. We've been working diligently with the town manager, with the fire chief, with the police chief to try to understand why we keep getting left out in the cold. So this isn't asking nightly. They stopped working at 2:30. They could have given temporary. We didn't even know what was being done. There was no communication, including to you guys. So as our town reps, you should feel that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I
Let me
agree.
hear your comments on that.
I agree. I think the way it was left afterwards was not acceptable.
And how we go forward from this point on and any work being done now has to be watched. We might as well bring in a COVID team to start watching things because we're not getting any watchdogs other than us doing it ourselves. So if the town of Bolton isn't going to stand by us, we'll find someone who will.
Well, we do have, we have Niche Engineering who is watching or doing periodic.
They weren't out here enough on Monday. They didn't stay late enough on Saturday.
Right. If it was Niche Engineering that was there, then that was supposed to be the representation of us as citizens of the town and,
taxpayers of this town also.
Right. Then not only did the developer leave, some of us, especially, myself and my family hanging, it seems like the blame's getting shifted. And I did seriously consider that day going to the police station because a danger was impeded on my household. But I refrained, and I thought that by going to the board, something would be able to be done. And I'll wrap up with this: is that we're really as a neighborhood, we're starting to realize that we are truly at the mercy of Key Farms, Bob Pace, whatever is a proper entity, because this is a private road, and a lot of our safeties and protections that we expect as taxpayers of Bolton is being overlooked because there's 18, 19 homes or whatever it is that sit on the street that we're at the mercy of when things get done. And it was a reminder this past weekend when we had a snowstorm and massive icing that it was an entire day before anybody finally came out here. And luckily it was a Saturday where people weren't having to get to work and whatnot. But the road was impassable. And my wife on leaving on that morning was going down our street and she almost lost control and slid into 85. So to me, I'm speaking as this was the second time that under the management and leadership of Bob Pace and Key Farms, my family has been put at the mercy of the lack of management and leadership. And so this is concerning because we are a private road and it seems like we have given up certain protections that could assure us the safety of within our own community. And I don't know what can be done, but I'm disappointed that there's no teeth, nothing that can be done except passing the buck and saying sorry. And I don't know, if anything, I say this so that this recorded video is remain for prosperity, so that someone in the future is looking up anything, they can come across this and understand how things kind of work in this town. And that's it. And I think that's all I have to say.
Hi, my name's Heather Carpenter, and I'm chiming in from Lot 5. And I had the same experience. I was driving up the hill with my father and my 6-year-old daughter on Saturday around 5 p.m. And my father's car slid sideways going up the hill. That is a huge concern to me. Obviously, my child's in the car. That is a safety issue. There's no reason at any given point that a road should not be plowed by 5 o'clock in the evening during any sort of snowstorm. I'm pretty sure, the stipulation is around 3 inches and you start plowing. I don't care how many times you have to plow, but it needs to be accessible for not only the neighbors, not only for all of us, but for any emergency vehicle coming up in here if need be. It is completely unacceptable. It's completely out of this world. I've never seen anything like this. And I can go on for days, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's comments. Just to touch on the plowing of the road and the responsibility of that. I believe, Dan, you had touched on this, that you guys understand it is a private road still, so the town has not taken ownership yet. So the plowing responsibilities are under, they're not the town, I guess, responsibility. So how that plowing is done is not through the town.
Is it acceptable to wait till 8, 9 o'clock in the evening during an ice and snowstorm to have, just a road plowed that's not even that long? And a road that isn't even legitimate to the town? I mean, let's be real.
I would agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily acceptable. It's just one of those, it's not under the town's prerogative to enforce that right.
Okay, so why don't we get a third party involved, take it out of the bond, and then call it a day so that we can ensure that every single person with children comes up and down here, or emergency vehicles, is safe to drive. Okay, is that reasonable? I mean, I could hire my own plow guy to do the whole neighborhood. I mean, if that works, he's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's a really good ask. But what can be done so that if it comes out of a bond or so that our safety is ensured? What is so the question I will follow up, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Heather, but let's get an answer. Can we somehow get money out of the bond to ensure that we get the proper attention that the rest of our town gets from the town? I pose that question to the board.
The simple answer is no.
Okay.
And there's nothing.
Right.
I mean, the bond does not cover routine maintenance, that sort of thing with it. So
okay, so let me follow.
I'll shovel then.
It's a construction bond.
Okay, so can I follow up? Can anybody on the board or a neighbor of mine recommend another entity within the town that can handle this this matter with a little bit more of I guess
responsible manner? Right. Yeah. Perfect words.
I'm asking. I don't know where else to look, and if I want to make sure I exhausted all avenues before is there? And then I'll have one more follow up with that.
Okay, I believe that you're covering. And Bob and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there's an HOA in covering the houses.
Okay.
Yeah. That covers.
No.
Yeah, we're not doing an HOA.
We don't have an
my
HOA.
neighbor will feel it the same way that I've heard. Okay, my last question then is I think we've been talking to the board, we've been talking to each other, and the whole time, the one person that actually has a way of changing the course of this is sitting and observing. So I posed the question to the board, not directed to the individual. I would like to inquire with the individual if we can get a commitment, something on record that we all on here can hear, and we can then set expectations and understandings. And if we need to, we can properly document. And if we need to take further action at any point, we've done everything we can to give the person that is the manager of our private road an opportunity to make good on their responsibility.
So I think with response to that, we have an ongoing punch list for the entire site for items that are still outstanding that need to be done. So those, Erica can bring those up and we can kind of go through those. Those are the stuff that we are waiting. And Bob, if you want to touch on them, that we're kind of are waiting to get compliance on for the project.
Would the developer like to respond on what the plan is to maintain?
Can you let the board talk first?
We're in the middle.
Yeah, would the developer like to respond on how he plans to maintain the snow and the ice and other conditions in the wintertime for our street? So all myself and all my neighbors can be aware of what is going on that side?
We've hired Rhino Construction. They're doing the plowing, and we have TLC to do the sanding there.
Yes, that is. Yes, I heard what Bob Pace said, and I'd like to ask the question then: what is the trigger that gets somebody in a truck? Yes, we've seen that there are plows because we had to wait, and finally one came. We saw that there's ice or there's salt and sand, but that came very much later after we had to raise it to the attention. So what is done automatically by Pace?
Let's talk about the salt and sand, okay? I got three emails, all or text, whatever, okay? By 7:30, by 9:30, someone was there, okay? I physically drove down there myself. It was icy. Okay, we sent a sander and a salter down there.
Can we confirm it was not sanded until 10:30 in the morning? I just want to be clear about that. I know you did tell us it was going to be done by 9:30. I was sitting in my office watching the road the entire time. The truck did not come by till almost 10:30.
Okay, well, I'm telling you that I got a call. It was 9:40. He said, I'm just about to pull in there. Irrespective, within 2 hours, okay, there was a truck there. Okay, you're not going to get better service.
Why should it? That's not good service.
Can
the
I
weather,
Well, Larry,
the weather
I don't care.
out there was below everyone.
But
There were sanders parked on Hudson Road, sanding.
Sorry,
You have to be proactive on storms, not reactive.
Especially coming from, and this is Heather again, especially coming from, a company who has over 5 plows. Like, why isn't our neighborhood being taken care of? It is completely nonsense. It is unjustifiable. It is literally ridiculous.
And I would like to add, this is Caroline Costa. I was the first one who drove out of that street that morning, and I really had to scare for my life because I did slide pretty bad. It was dark. It was early in the morning. And I guess I understand, Bob, what you're saying. You did react once we called you or texted you or emailed you. But I guess the question that my husband asked is, what is the plan? Are you just going to be reactive? And once we call you, or now you have a company and they're going to come later on the day, or are we going to have, somebody first thing in the morning proactively, taking care of the road? So whoever needs to get out, whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning or 9:30 in the morning, we're not going to have a chance that, somebody had an accident that day because somebody came just at 9:30 or 10 o'clock versus at 6 o'clock.
I need to, unfortunately, this is a maintenance issue and it's an issue between all of you as residents with Bob. It is not something that the town planning board has any purview over. So I need to have you all take that offline. I understand your valid concerns, but it's not part of the planning board approval for right now. So I'd like to veer this back to the punch list of the items that we do have control over, so we can go through them and continue. So thank you.
And Danielle, I would just like to remind everyone on this call that when you do open it up for public comment, please state your name and your address. It's very difficult to follow along when individuals are making comments and are not stating who they are. Thanks.
So Erica, Danielle, before we move on, I guess there is the question of, for roads that are not yet accepted by town, does the town have any bylaw about when plowing needs to occur by? anything like that. I mean, someone had asked the question is, is there anything that someone in town could do? I don't know if fines could be levied by the fire department or the police department if a road isn't plowed within a certain period of time. Do we have anything like that?
No, there are no requirements for plowing on private driveways, or excuse me, private roads. There's nothing in our decision related to Keys Farm that speaks to that, and our subdivision rules and regulations do not have requirements. I've spoken to our town administrator, I've spoken to the fire department, to DPW, and we're all on the same page. This is a private road, and this is really a civil matter between the developer and the residents that live on that road.
Bob, you're muted.
So if it's a private matter, then going back to the driveways that weren't done
I'm sorry.
properly, that
Please state your name and your address before you begin speaking, and that I don't believe we're open to public comment at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, so just because I took the brunt of the browbeating, I just want to give a 15-second rebuttal. We plowed it 3 times. We salted it within 2 hours. That's about as good as it's going to get. And, so that's for the record. Okay, if somebody's leaving their house at 5:30 in the morning, okay, they're just not going to, they're just not going to have a bare street. I have nothing else to say on that matter. I can't read this, Erica. Can you enlarge that, please?
Is that better?
Yeah, a little bit. This is what happens when you get old. Okay, I've got a magnifying glass. Finished slope. We've done that. Number 1 is done. Number
Can we,
2.
Bob, do you mind if we discuss that in a little more detail, if you don't mind? I did have some concerns that I'd like the board to consider. So I'm going to actually go back really quick to Niche Engineering's reports. So my concern, Bob, when I look at how the stone swales were installed compared to the approved plan that was submitted by Dillis and Roy, is that when I look at the slope, there's really not a terraced area when it comes to the swale. The swales really follow the topography, the existing topography of the land, which is not what I anticipated when I reviewed the approved plan. I thought that this would be more level to allow for runoff coming down the slope to enter into the swale and then drain to the level spreader. My concern right now, and is something that I'm hoping you can have Greg Roy weigh in about, is whether, is runoff just coming down and essentially sheet flowing over this and continuing down the slope. So that was a concern I had.
I'll add to that. Eric and I reviewed, I reviewed the detail plan earlier today, and the detail actually shows that crushed stone area as needing to be flat. So if I have to agree with Erica's concern with it following the topography of the slope and going like this versus being flat, you're not getting that slowdown, and you have the potential to have the runoff just go beyond it and not actually get into it. Yes.
Okay, so Eric, I'm going to send you some, and this is my bad. I didn't mean just to spring this on you. This is not my intention. Okay, I'm just telling you. I thought you were copied on this. This is an email I just forwarded, okay, to you, Erica. Okay, Bob, at your request, I visited the site this morning. That was this morning. This is from Greg Roy. Okay, the site was covered with 2 to 3 inches of dense snowpack. It was a bit difficult to see everything. However, I was able to kick away the snow in several places and verify the presence of the stone. And it appears to me that the swales and level spreaders were constructed in the locations per plan. Also, I also noted that the straw wattles were installed and appeared to be in the appropriate locations and lengths. The middle of the swale in lot 2 appears to be pitching the wrong way. However, the contractor indicated that the bottom of the swale was over excavated to provide the pitch toward the level spreader. He indicated that niche engineering was on site during the construction of the swale to observe this. Based on these observations today, it appears that the work was complete in general conformance with the intent of, of the approved plan. I just sent you that.
Okay, thank you. And then just as a follow-up to that email, Bob, I did visit the site this morning, and I will say that it's very hard to get a good sense of the slope and the slope improvements that were made with the snow cover. You know, I had gone out to take some pictures, and I ended up not even taking pictures because it wasn't really indicative of what's there. I think, you know, if the board was amenable to this, what I would really like to do, whether it's if we have a period where there's no snow or perhaps in the spring, I would like to do a site visit again with Greg and with niche engineering to take a look at the slope.
That's fine.
Just one more time to verify that these structures were installed in conformance with the plan, because I could show you many pictures where, you know, it's not terraced like this at all. It's purely a slope with some crushed stone. So I am obviously concerned about that.
Okay, so again, the designer of the project, the designer of the slope, the town's engineer, okay, and say that it's built correctly. And I'm going to go this far to say, yeah, I think we should go out there in the spring. Okay. But, you know, I don't know where else to go with that. And Erica, honestly, I apologize. I thought you were copied in on that. I would have sent you that first. I would not have, but I don't like getting blindsided, so I wouldn't have done that to you. So I apologize.
That's fine. And just for a little bit of background, I do have a bachelor's of science in in civil engineering. So, and I was a practicing engineer for about 8 years, doing peer reviews for other towns. So, you know, up till now, Fred Hamway had been doing all of the inspections, and I hadn't been out there or needed to be out there as much. For this slope work, I have, you know, been doing more site visits. So, you know, I just want to make that comment because I don't want it to sound as if I have no experience or knowledge in this background.
I didn't say that. Okay, quite the contrary. I just said the designer went out there because we had a conversation yesterday. Okay, I was expecting to have a conversation about this. By the way, that came in at 1:38 today, so it wasn't, you know, okay, and I wasn't even home, but be that as it may, I'm not a very good email guy.
I mean, at this point, you know, I agree. I got to see some of Erica's photos before the snow. I'm okay with waiting until the spring to look at this. I do have some similar concerns as Erica. But given that we're December, given that we're going into, you know, freezing grounds and anything, I would, you know, I don't think it makes sense to do anything now because I think more disturbance is just going to exacerbate the problem. So I would definitely like to review this. I guess I wouldn't consider this completely closed, that punch list item, and would like to reassess this in the spring as well.
Right. I agree with that. I just, let's just move on.
Okay.
Correct the driveway runoff with lot 4. When we were paving, first of all, I was not there. Okay, so whatever I'm saying, okay, I've heard through the paver, okay? But Nitch was there. And when we got to do the berm on lot 4, they requested that we don't put the berm there, okay? And that was so we'll deal with if there is runoff in the spring. Just to go back to the backyards there too, I don't think it makes any sense to do another inspection until there's some grass growing there as well. Then you know if it's functioning or it's not. Okay, I didn't mean to jump backwards, but it was another mention. Correct the driveway transitions. I think we beat that to death. We'll cut them out and put them in. Okay, replace the damaged curbing. We've done that. If necessary, under drains. I know where Erica's talking about. Lot 16 has a like a natural swale where a lot of water runs across the walkway in a big storm. I think we can look at that too. I don't have that list in front of me again, Erica.
I wanted to show the board some photos as we're going through this list. So this is the section of of sidewalk here where there's some runoff issues. So, I think this is something that we may have to address in the springtime with when high groundwater is in effect. So.
Yeah, okay.
Erica, did you send us that document?
I did not. I had
Okay.
finished this late in the day, and so
Okay,
this
yeah,
is
no
something
problem.
that I wanted
Wanted
to
to make
bring
sure I
up
wasn't
during
missing
the
it.
meeting. So, and just since we're here, these are some compelling photos here. As you can see, the stone really goes with the slope here. It's not like as shown in that trench detail. So my concern is that you have runoff just continuing to go down this slope. And then this is the area here that Greg Roy was talking about. You see some high points and low points along the swale on lot 2, which he's saying that the contractor over excavated to compensate for some pitch. So that, I don't know if Nitch, can speak to that or not, but so that was another concern.
Well, Erica, you and Steve and Bob and I were out there when we laid out the original where it was going to go. It was going to go right through the neighbor's yard, right through her yard, right? Correct. And we moved it up on the hill. And I don't know if Steve remembers, if Steve's still on the line, that I said we're going to have to dig that probably about 3 feet deep to compensate to get the pitch. Steve, do you remember that?
This is Steve and Trescott Niche Engineering. So when we were out on site, I did observe that we had that the bottom of these trenches, or the trench that was exposed at the time, was sloping towards the woods. We did talk about or discuss that you needed to over excavate because you were adjusting that trench and moving it
to take it out of the people's yard.
Exactly. But I agree with Erica, and I think it was discussed at that site visit that we were going to have to see how these performed, and then based on that performance, we would have to do adjustments to make sure that it's working. So I totally agree. Need to go back out in the spring, and whether it's berming the lower end of the trenches with some more stone or with earth material to prevent the continued sheet flow.
Brianna from
absolutely
lot
necessary.
Brianna from lot 2 just mentioned that she did see that we over excavated that end of the trench for that drain in the chat.
Yep, can I jump in? This is Brianna Kiernan from lot 2. Yeah, when they were doing the work out back, we did not have any concerns with that area leading into the woods with how they excavated it.
Thank you. Eric, if you want to go back to the list.
Okay. Loban seam
Sorry,
behind the curbing. I'm sorry?
I was just going to ask Erica if she could zoom in a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's much better. loam and seed behind all the curb where the fill was removed. Okay, of course. Clean the storm system, of course, which have already been cleaned, but I'm sure by the springtime they'll need to be cleaned again.
I think, if I can just stop you for, I guess, I mean, I was gonna say, I don't think we need to go through all of these individually. I guess the comment I have, the cleaning and loam and seeding in the spring, that's all
Yeah.
kind of normal stuff that we would expect from, this type of project. I guess the concern I have is, sorry, Eric, if you wouldn't mind scrolling back up to just the top ones. I mean, the top four of them are some pretty, I would think, significant items, and just on how this is going to get, I guess, get done.
Well, it's going to get done in the spring. Okay, I mean, Danielle, I mean, there's no evidence that we have ran away from this project, okay? This is all going, okay, we talked about number one, we beat that to death.
Can I talk for a second, Bob?
Sure.
Steve, I had a conversation with you about the driveway transitions. I asked you if that in the spring that you would come out and mark them out with me, and we'll work together on figuring how far back each one needs to go and cutting and doing all the asphalt removal, correct, Steve?
That's correct. And you're going to have to cut, well into some of these driveways to make sure that those transitions.
Yep. That's what I said to you. Some of them we're going to have to go 10, 12 feet.
Right.
To make sure all the water.
And we're talking about saw cutting.
Saw cutting along the road.
Roadway and the driveways, tack coat. Make sure there's a good base. On some of these transitions, it's not good base. And it needs to be with it can't be hand placed. It needs to be with some kind of, with rollers, vibratory rollers. It needs to be with a paving machine, and you need to have, ideally a tack truck. But if you have a smaller operation, I could see a tack wagon, and you're going to need to overtack it. So, yes, we definitely need to go back out, and it's going to be a full day to go through all of these driveway transitions and mark them out.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess I'm just thinking schedule wise, and how this works, since we were originally expecting all of the paving to be done now, and there wouldn't be any paving in the springtime. So I think there's some concern with leaving. Obviously that can't get done until spring, at least April. So with the schedule for road acceptance, I guess, is where I'm coming at, and some of the concerns there.
And if I can say, Madam Chair, until everything is addressed on the punch list, and especially the roadway and the driveway aprons, frankly, if road acceptance doesn't happen and it doesn't happen for a longer period of time, I don't know why there needs to be a rush for roadway acceptance.
I'm just sure that the residents would want that as quickly as possible. It gets up to the planning board.
Yeah, I
Yes,
mean, I think to Danielle's
This is
point
Heather.
hang on one second, please. To Danielle's point, I mean, we need to make a recommendation to the selectmen in February, right, for
Yes.
road acceptance. And so
Before
we're
February
going to have
25th.
that be contingent with lots of outstanding work that needs to be completed.
That's exactly what I was talking about. I guess,
And Michael, might I add, we'd obviously like to get that done too. So, that would be okay. Would act as a catalyst for us to get this done. So okay, the worst case, you can take it off the agenda.
All right. Can I speak
you're
as a resident
correct.
here as Lot 5? I'm Heather. I do appreciate, the fact that Bob is saying that, all the residents absolutely want the road to be completed. We want the neighborhood to be done, with legitimacy, and for everything to function as it should be. However, now as lot 5, which I haven't had an issue in the past besides, when my entire property was just mud. I'm now, because of, the little slip on my driveway, I'm now having flooding at the bottom of my driveway, and it's going on to lot 4. And then, gravity takes place. It just goes downstream. So how are we going to address all of these issues as a whole? Because it's kind of, I hate to say it like this, but we're pissing against the wind up here, and it's awfully windy up here. So can somebody answer
And
that?
I appreciate, yeah, I think you're getting kind of at some of what I was getting at, in the fact that I think that there's still some big items that need to still be addressed. And I don't think we want them rushed. I think there is, some attention, I guess, that needs to be had to this area. And right now, I'm not feeling very comfortable with putting forward a recommendation contingent on that, just given I think there's, significant items that are still out there that we were just looking at with regard to the punch list. So, and just knowing that we would, unfortunately, the time frame and the way it works is there's a certain, and I think, Eric, is this what you have up showing? There's certain deadlines that we need to provide our recommendations to the Board of Selectmen in order for them to review it, and then kind of go through, and then, for us to meet the, thank you, yes, this is perfect. So basically, before February 25th, we need to have our recommendation to the Selectmen. And obviously, between now and February 25th, there's not going to be too much that's happening with regard to these punch list items, because we're going into winter. So I am a little hesitant with, I guess, moving forward. I understand, Bob, what you were saying is we could always pull the article, but I'm a little hesitant as a planning board to put forth a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen that we're then pulling. I want to feel strongly behind the recommendation. I understand you're saying there's a catalyst for you to get the work done. I just feel that it's potentially a catalyst to rush the work. And I think it's more important to maybe not have the deadline to make sure the work is going to get done correctly. And we're going to have some time in the springtime to really see how some of these erosion sediment control devices are working, make sure the basins are working correctly, and that these driveway transitions are installed correctly. And not, again, sometimes we can have an April where we have snow and really cold weather, and you're not paving in April then. So I'm just concerned with pushing this. I guess, I'd like to hear what the other board members think.
I agree. Thank you.
Along this.
Yeah, Danielle, this is Mike. So I certainly agree. I mean, the amount of work that needs to get done, the fact that we think there may need to be changes to the erosion controls is concerning. A question for Erica. I mean, we haven't had one for a while, but we do sometimes have town meetings in the fall. Are road acceptances allowed for that if we've gone through a winter previously? Do you know?
Yeah, I think that would be at the direction of the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator. That would need to be their decision.
Okay.
Certainly that's something that I could pose, if come the summer, we're ready for road acceptance, and that's something that we wanted to try to get onto a special town meeting, I could certainly talk to them about that. But I don't know if in the past the town has done a special meeting just for road acceptances.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it would usually be something that would just be opportunistically tacked on.
That's what I mean. Not hold a special town meeting for it, but if there is a town meeting, then we had something ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the time we get them done in the spring, because that's, we get everything cleaned up over the winter, and it's just a matter of verifying the pavement held up properly. Erica, are the driveway transitions, do those need to overwinter as part of the road acceptance?
They do not, no.
Okay, so it's just the main portion of the road. Okay.
And Erica, to the point, the work that was done for the road, I mean, I don't think I saw anything in the report that said that there were problems with the paving on the main road portion itself, right? It was just the transitions?
No, nothing in the report that I'm aware of. I think that Steve probably
That's
could speak to
correct.
that better than
Yeah,
me.
no, that's correct. The roadway paving was fine. There were no issues there. It's the
Okay.
transitions to the driveways that were the concern.
Great.
So then Larry Cedrone, 84 Moderator Way. So then, and we agree that we want things done properly, but we don't, as a neighborhood, agree that we could be jeopardized to not be accepted for the 2021-22 winter. So we're putting it on the board, and we'll take this up with all you men and ladies and gentlemen, that it's not fair as taxpayers will be more than 2 years in this neighborhood if we don't get accepted for the following winter. So it is imperative that some special meetings or whatever needs to take place happen so that so that the town represents us properly as taxpayers on one of the highest tax rates in the Commonwealth to represent us properly, because we agree we want all the work done properly and not hurriedly. We believe you people should be watching over this work so we don't continue to have these meetings going over the same issues month after month after month. That being said, it's unacceptable if this road isn't accepted for next winter. Unacceptable.
The town has very clear criteria for.
Then we'll take it to a higher.
acceptance.
Then we'll take. We'll go
Just
to the
let me
highest order we.
talk for a second. Hey, and a lot of that burden rests on the developer, not on the town. The developer could have done the paving in October.
Right. We agree. We're in agreement.
The fact that he waited until the last possible second and then didn't get everything done is not the board's responsibility. That's purely on him. You know,
and we appreciate those words, and we agree.
Similarly, these drainage issues have been going on since day one, and haven't been addressed until late in the fall. And again, that's not the board isn't responsible for doing the engineering. We're overseeing it. We're not doing the engineering.
And we're all in agreement.
Issues.
We're
so this isn't the board that has the issue. It's and any of the delays are from the developer's side, not from
the board is the only.
I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to interrupt, but if we simply gave Erica or Nitch the opportunity to let us work that Monday, this would be a non-issue as far as the road itself.
No, guess that's too late.
No, it just as I had said. So let's not get into it, but that's where we are.
I think we need to get into it.
We're just going to get over it.
No, we don't need to get into it here.
Right.
Okay.
That part of it is what it is at this point.
At some point, the town should have our backs as a community, as taxpayers, as legitimate working families with children. At some point, the town should get involved and say, this is not right. At what point does that happen? Can the board answer me that?
We have been advocates for this development through the entire process. We've held special meetings for this development. The board, you need to remember, right? We work for the town. We are representing the interests of the town. Okay. And currently you have a private road, and we're working with you to accept that road into the town, right? We're following the procedures of how that happens.
I can agree with that. However, how long does it take? How much time and effort and manpower does it take to make sure it's done right the first time instead of the 20th time? I mean, the curbs look awful. Like the sidewalks are humpy bumpy everywhere. There's trees growing inside of them already. They've been up there for 2 months. At what point do us as a community say, this is unacceptable? We are going to take it to a higher level. I'm not sure. How about you?
Again, the board is not responsible for the construction, right? We're not doing the work.
But we're not asking the board. Larry Sidoni again, 84 Moderator Way. We're not asking the board. We understand where the board stands. What we're asking the board to do is represent us from this point on to help facilitate what the developer didn't get done. The town of Bolton is in the penalty box because of what the developer didn't get done, and the residents, the 18 homeowners, are in the penalty box because what our developer didn't get done. When does either he get held accountable and suffer, and we get put where we should be? you're still taking our full tax dollars. We're not getting a rebate because the road is a private road. When do you act like we're taxpayers and you guys are representing us? That's what Heather just said. That's what I'm reiterating. That's what everyone in this neighborhood has been saying.
This is
Still
Liz
waiting on a
Hutchins from
mailbox.
This is Liz Hutchins from Lot 4. And I would just like to basically, for the board is aware that on multiple different occasions, there have been bylaws that have been clearly broken, requirements in the neighborhood plans that have been clearly broken. And literally, the planning board's response to that is, oh, well, it's been done, so it is what it is. So if that's how we're handling things, then I don't know, do we need to go to the select board about this and kind of see how this is managed? Because I do realize that the zoning board requirements are held by the select board. And I'm just not interested in how the planning board has been kind of holding our builder accountable to this point.
You're certainly free to bring it up to the selectmen. In fact, I would encourage you to do it. You know, it just, you know, I mean, they, you know, and we'll go from there. I know at least several of the members are previous planning board members, so they have a pretty good grounding on how things are done.
And I think just to answer the question of, you know, the next steps of if you know, the town, in order for us not to, we either work with a developer to try to get this done and get this completed, you know, in the right way, and that's what we're trying to do. If it's cannot be done, you know, then the option is for the town to pull the bond and to, you know, contract it out to another contractor. However, there are many difficulties with that scenario. So we don't look at that as, you know, we don't take that lightly. You know, we would want to try to exhaust all options first before that, you know, looking at that. And actually anything over $100,000 bond anyways needs town meeting as well. So what we're trying to do is we understand your concerns, and we're trying to work with the developer to get it done correctly, and complete the project. Are there any other comments or questions from the board?
We'd like a wrap up. Larry Sidoni, 84 Moderator Way. So to summarize then, if you would be kind enough and to summarize that we really, other than doing a lot of bitching tonight, we accomplished nothing. And that we're really going to pick this up in the spring. And we probably should enter the spring, whether it be March, April, May, or June, with a game plan on how the town, the 18 homes on Moderator Way, and our developer are going to proceed, and we're all on the same page. So as Heather said, as I've said, as Dan has said, as Liz has said, we're not redoing work time and time and time again. So we're not having this discussion into 2023. Forget 22.
Larry, I think that's a great idea, and I would actually ask Bob to put together a schedule. I think you're correct in the fact that there's not much that can be done between now and February. We're going into winter months, but I'd like a, you know, you have the punch list items that need to get done. I'd like a schedule to potentially be put together. I understand stuff is weather dependent, but on how you anticipate completing the items that maybe we could revisit, I don't know, February, March, early March, so that we can kind of understand your game plan for moving forward with completing these items. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I
But
think
it's larger than that, because we'll need coordination with the engineers out here watching things, or whatever parts, whether it be Erica or yourself or us residents, because if things aren't watched, they don't get, proof is in the pudding. Where we stand today is abysmal. I didn't buy on this street to be where I'm standing here today. So, and none of us.
No,
And you guys don't need to be, so it's not just Bob putting together a plan. He'll throw that together. We need how we're going to watch him and what is going to be deemed acceptable and what is not.
There are things already in place, Larry. Okay, Larry.
The light went in the wrong
There is
spot,
protocol.
Bob.
There's protocol already in place.
The light went in the wrong spot.
What?
So what's that protocol?
Okay, well, let's. So if things are not done according to the plans, we are going to note that, and it's going to need, the deficiencies are going to need to be corrected. We do have,
But
you know,
we have all
we
winter
will.
then to get this, to get geared up properly.
I can assure you, Larry, okay, at this point, we're not even going to look at it until we see the severity of the winter. So let me give a little bit of reality check, okay? The bottom line is we could have two feet of snow in March. So for me to put a schedule together, okay, doesn't make any sense. Okay, I think sometime in late March, we will put a schedule together. I'll go through Erica and I'll be happy to do so.
Bob, my points weren't being directed to you. They're directed to the town,
Well, they
the
are.
engineers and everyone else. Well, good.
Well, they are.
They're being, how
All right,
is work going to
let's
be watched?
please direct them. You can talk to the board. Larry, I will answer the fact that once we have that schedule with Bob, we absolutely will be reviewing it. We'll be making
We didn't
sure.
even know the driveways were going to be left like that. Neither did you guys. That's proof in the pudding of how things have been done on Moderator
That's
Way.
proof in the pudding that we ran out of time.
And the selectmen
proof.
also know that none of us were told that's how it was going to happen until it happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that I will agree. I think that how that was left was not okay.
Abysmal.
Was not at all okay.
I wouldn't go as far as abysmal. Okay, but it certainly wasn't. It wasn't our intention either.
Well, there's also proof in the pudding when, you know, the contractor, the developer of the entire community says, well, you know, you get what you pay for. You're living in the projects of Bolton, Massachusetts. Great.
Heather?
Well, now we know why,
Bob,
Bob,
right?
right? Oh, you thought it was directed at
That's a
you,
lie.
right?
All right, this is getting off.
Right.
This is getting
We
a little
know.
off topic. So let's stop that. But I just wanted to wrap up to say that I still think, Bob, putting, oh, sorry, Mark, you want to add?
I was just going to say there's one other bullet item we haven't hit yet, which is the driveway widths before you wrap up.
The what?
Top of
The
page
driveway
2.
widths.
I'm sorry, I still didn't hear it. One more time.
Driveway widths.
Widths.
The driveways are in, okay? You know.
That doesn't mean that they meet what the plan was approved to be.
So, okay,
So
so if it's
what
got a
was shown
gravel
on the
shoulder,
plan?
if it's got a gravel shoulder, that meets the width. Okay, it doesn't say they have to be paved. I don't know. Did I freeze out here?
No, I'm
okay. All right. I think that I think that's the answer to that.
Erica, can you comment on that with regard to that?
Sure. So in terms of driveway width, if you look at Bolton's driveway bylaw as well as driveway regulations, we don't have a specific driveway width requirement. However, during the driveway application period, they do, the developer is required to submit a plan, and then that plan does show the driveway width.
But it doesn't necessarily.
Your volume went out, Erica. Can you repeat that?
Oh, I'm sorry. What I was saying is that our driveway bylaw and regulations do not specify a specific driveway width. During the driveway application period, however, the developer is required to submit a plan that shows the driveway design. And generally speaking, driveways are supposed to be installed per that driveway design. The owner of Lot 4 had brought it to our attention that her driveway width, as shown on the approved plan, was 12 feet. It was installed at 10 feet. I did go out to the site and did confirm that it was 10 feet. As a follow-up to that, I did contact the fire department because I wanted to make sure that vital access to that home was being was sufficient. And they did get back to me and say, yes, 10 feet is sufficient for vital access. So from that perspective, I don't have concerns. However, what I do have concern about is I want to make sure that the driveway does meet the requirements of the bylaw and the regulation. So that, that's something that I think we need to look at.
What did the application show? 12 feet?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can, am I not sharing my screen?
No, you're not sharing.
But Mark, I guess my point is, Mark, okay, it could be 12 feet of gravel. It doesn't have to be pavement.
I don't know what your contract with the homeowner said, whether it was going to be paved or gravel. That's a separate issue. The question is
certainly a private matter.
That's certainly private matter, but if it's not being, if what you applied for and what you built is not, don't line up, then the town is involved.
There's 12 feet of gravel / pavement.
I would disagree. This is Jason Hutch from Lot 4. We have the grass, it's 10 feet of driveway, and then it's the swale that's on the side, which I would not consider the waste.
On the left side.
I wouldn't consider the stormwater management.
On the left side.
Nope, that's grass, not gravel. And it comes right into a.
There's gravel underneath it, whether you grassed it or not. Okay, is not my issue. But listen, this is certainly not a planning board purview.
It is a planning board purpose. When the permit said 12 feet, you built it to 10 feet, and the selectmen are supposed to uphold the permit for the town. And if it's in the wrong location also, because Heather had her land surveyed, it is more than 10 feet off of the drawing location. That is a town issue that needs to be resolved.
You're mistaken. Thank you all this evening. I appreciate it. I'm done. Thank you.
Erica, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, really, my only comment on this driveway width agenda item was just to reiterate that with this law owner's concern, we just want to go back and make sure that it's meeting the bylaw and the regulation requirements. And we'll do that. So,
okay.
Thank you again. Good night.
Good night, Bob.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
So this is Jason Hutch from Lot 4. Just to close this, my issue is there are bylaws in the zoning board that require the permits to be upheld, and that is by the selectmen. And I consider the permit to be upheld as he applied for a 12-foot wide driveway specific, and there is drawings that the town planning board requires to be submitted, as well as slopes and everything else like that. If they are not going to hold the builder accountable to what the plans and everything, then what is the purpose of them being submitted? So if the planning boards are going to require drawings and slopes and widths and all these things in their permit, then they need to be upheld. I'm not sure what the inspector did, but when you have a driveway that they didn't inspect it to be the right width or the right location, I'm not sure what he's actually inspecting beyond the fact that he says, yep, they paved something. So
well, I think if I can just interrupt you for a minute there, my understanding, Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, we verify a lot of the stuff on the drawings with an as-built. We haven't not received that yet, so we would check that with the as-built. So that's where we would have that verification. Is that
so? Right, but I'm saying we don't need to even get to the as-built since Erica confirmed the width is not in accordance with the permit.
It's not that it's not in accordance with the permit. It's not in accordance with what's shown on the. Excuse me.
Okay.
No, let me finish, please. What I was going to say is that it's not in accordance with the plan that was submitted as part of the driveway application. Again, our bylaw and our regulation does not specify a specific width. If the developer had come in and shown a 10-foot width, that would have more than likely been approved as well. So I think, when it comes to this issue, obviously we want it to meet our bylaws and our regulations. That is the intent here, but we also have to use some common sense. So, if the 10 feet is sufficient and in the driveway is meeting all of the other requirements of the bylaws and regulations, obviously the board will need to make a decision on that. It may not be prudent to go in and redo that entire driveway
Would
the
love
city.
to hear from the board about their opinions on this and upholding the bylaws that require that permits are followed.
And I would also just ask that when people are speaking, that you don't interrupt people. Thank you.
This is Liz Hutchins from Lot 4. I think.
I think Erica summed it up that we're because there's not a specific requirement within the bylaw, we're reviewing it with the intent and following the intent. That's what we will follow up with. If anyone else from the board wants to comment.
I mean, I would disagree slightly that if they file an application showing 12 feet, then that should be what, then that's what, I mean, that's what the homeowner is, I mean, if it's important to them, that's what they're paying attention to, and that's what they're presenting to the town is what they're actually gonna do. I mean, at work, if you tell your boss that you're gonna have something done by noon and it's 4 o'clock, well, you can't say, well, yeah, I intended noon, but it was easier to do it by 4. They don't most bosses don't appreciate that line of reasoning. So or if you contract to do a 12 by 20 shed and the contractor says, well, I did 10 by 15, that's close enough. That's not what you're expecting. That's not what you've contracted for. So, and I think the application is effectively a contract with the town of what they're going to be installing. As far as the location moving a little bit here and there, there's, facts on the ground that don't necessarily line up with exactly with the drawings. So that, that's normal, as long as they didn't wander across the property line. But, I think the width is something that they do, they did specify it and I think they should be held to that.
I agree with Mark on that, on this one. I would like to know where did you get the survey from? The independent survey, where did that come from?
So that wasn't our independent survey. Our neighbor directly onto the side of us had their survey completed. I'm not sure, Heather, if you want to speak up about this. I'm not sure who did it, but she had fencing put in. So they had her entire lot, I think, was surveyed by an independent engineer.
Yes, it was an independent engineer. And I mean, at this point, I never expected my fence to go next to my driveway. That's not at all what I intended. That's not what the plans were. Then again, my plans weren't for, my rock wall to be right behind my house. So, I just kind of go with the flow over here, even though everything's always an issue, everything. And that's why I'm so sincere about trying to get up the road to my driveway, because I actually had an independent HVAC person over here who told me that, I'm lucky my house didn't burn down already because it wasn't installed correctly by, the same people who built this entire neighborhood. So in the event that my house burns down and a fire truck can't get up here, well, guess what? I'm screwed. And that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Anyone else from the board want to, with regard to the driveway? I mean, it sounds like the consensus is that it needs to meet the 12 feet.
I think it needs to meet the application is really, I mean, I can
Well, I
see
guess, and Erica,
a place where people would say 10 feet is sufficient. Maybe somebody, says, well, you really want 14 feet because I have an extra ride truck or something.
sure, sorry, let me rephrase that. I mean, Erica, the application noted 12 feet, is that correct?
Let me pull up the plan again. I think if you measure it, it measures out at 12 feet.
I do also want to be clear that we have less than 40 feet of frontage. So if our driveway is 12 feet wide, 10 feet on our frontage is like a substantial percentage. So to hear that 10 feet this way or that way isn't a lot, it does end up being a lot given the size of the frontage that we have on our lot.
And I'd further, Erica, if you just pull up the driveway permit, it says 12 feet right on the permit online. You don't even need to measure.
Okay, let me. Here's the plan. Oh, you're Jason, you're referring to the actual application. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yep.
Yes, Erica, there's the actual application, and then on the actual drawing, it gives you down in the bottom left corner, I think it gives you the details on the drawing of how many feet away from the lot lines, et cetera. And this is just par for the course of what the residents are frustrated with. All this work is done for the drawings, and then, no different than with the back swales, right? It's I'll just do whatever I want, and I'll try to get it done before the town can inspect it, so they're not out here to view it. And then they'll just see a polished pig at the end of the day. And hopefully that'll be passed because it's the end of the day. And there is a bylaw in Bolton that says if they do not abide to the permit, they can be fined a certain dollar value every day until it's $50 a day till it's rectified, right? And that's why I asked Erica to investigate multiple driveways, because there's multiple driveways that are wrong. The reason why this is because that's as wide as the paver thing that he had that day. It doesn't follow the direction on the drawings. It's because all they did is they just threw down some asphalt on their construction road they had going up to the house when they built it. They didn't actually look at where it's supposed to go. They said, oh, that's where the dump truck drove up, so that's where I'm going to pave it. And they just did it the width of the paver. So that's how they do their job. And the frustration is because if someone's to go out and inspect it, why did this driveway even get approved? If he didn't even measure the width of it and he didn't look at the location of it, how did it get approved in the first place? And it's a special permit item. It's not like it's a part within the house. It's a special permit that needs to get signed off on. How did that happen if you only got to look at a couple things on a driveway?
Danielle, I'm pulling up the photos. I had taken this today because I didn't have a photo of the actual curb cut area. So this is the driveway in question here for lot 4. And I believe this is the stake for the property line that they're referring to.
And Bob is saying that to the left-hand side, that from where that stake is to where the edge of the driveway is, that's considered the driveway?
Correct.
Yeah.
And let's be clear too, it's hard to see from this picture, but Heather's fence, which is also on the left-hand side, is a direct line. So if you drew a straight line from Heather's fence to that lot marker, it gets into the right of way. So I guess that doesn't technically count. But if the property lines went to the road, we would have part of our driveway on Heather's lot, but it is part of the easement at that
Right.
point. So I don't know.
And
Right.
further, that's a continuous slope up. So you can't say it's a driveway and gravel when Bob won, he grassed it, and it's a slope going up. So I wouldn't say my driveway would need to be flat on a bituminous layer and then a slope and grass and say, oh, that's more of my driveway. And the swale's on the other side, so that's also not driveway.
I have to agree with the fact that if it's meant to be a paved driveway, the width really should be the width of the pavement. And not, certainly not grassed area beyond it. I also would have a problem with maybe gravel shoulders, because that would be considered shoulder, not the driveway width. So I think it really is the width of the pavement is.
So maybe the town would want to come out here. This is Heather again from 79 or lot 5. So maybe the town would come out here and do their own surveyor, so I don't have to pay for it again.
Well, we are requiring, I think there's 2 issues here. One, there's the width of the driveway and potentially the location of it as part of the as-built. As part of the requirements, the road acceptance, we require an as-built, I guess, and we could require the location of these curb cuts. Typically, it wouldn't be the whole driveway, just because the town is, it's for the road acceptance, but we can look at the location of where the curb cuts are under existing conditions and put that as a requirement as part of the as-built.
Which
So
kind of curb cuts? The ones that were filled in that look like crap, or the actual ones? I'm not sure.
So the actual installed curb cuts along the road for each of the
Oh,
driveways.
okay. Okay, good. Okay. So yeah, you guys can get your own people out here and do your job. I'm not paying for it again. But I'm
No,
more
this
to accommodate. I have no problem with that. But those are the legitimate, specs that the surveyor gave me. That's all I can go off of. If somebody else wants to do their own, that's totally cool. I have no problem with that. But yeah, that's not on me anymore.
No, I think just for members of the board, it would be beneficial if we asked for, as part of the as-built, for the curb cuts to be picked up along there, so we can verify just the entrances along there
Yeah, but that probably should have been done like a year ago, if not more, right?
Can I just say something?
Defend.
I drive by there all the time, and I actually go up and drive around and look at this whole thing since it's happened. And I was really on the fence when I second the motion of allowing it was from the grade going into the street to run off into the street. If you don't remember that, a couple.
Oh, I do. I do.
Back, and what I ultimately wanted was just to get this paved and done, and I wasn't really too happy with the fact that that the rock was dug up or whatever it was and seeded and over. And, you know, I kind of take a little bit of where we're not working, you know, I want the residents to know we work very hard with both the developer and the residents to get this done. And like I said, I was really on the fence with it. And the only reason why I did it was because of the fact that I really thought that if we held that up, that the paving wasn't going to get done. And it was just, okay, if the residents are okay with it, half the board wasn't okay. And I made the second, and, you know, and I honestly thought that the paving was going to get done with it above all. So ultimately, we try as best as we can to work with the residents and the developers to get the job done. And
yeah, but we just, as residents, we just want to make sure it's done right.
Yes, I agree.
That's all.
I wholeheartedly agree. I've been in construction my entire life, and you know, so I mean, we just, you know, again, we got to work together to get this stuff done. And you're right. And these are some of the questions that I, you know, like I just asked, you know, what is, you know, from the marker over to the driveway. I want to see it done. I do think that the developer should be held accountable for what they do, and you know, that's my piece about the whole thing.
I agree. And as a homeowner, it should be legitimate if I get a surveyor to survey the area, because, you know, what else do I know besides where my property is, quote unquote, supposed to be relative to where it is actually.
I agree.
So I did my own due diligence to hire somebody to survey, and it looks kind of weird to me. To be honest, it looks kind of weird.
Yeah, the end of my driveway is on my neighbor's property, and I didn't know that going into buying my house. So
right. So I understand. Like I'm
so,
you know,
yeah, we're way out at this point. I think to Danielle's point, a lot of the places where these irregularities come out is when we get the as-built plan. Right. Now, right, and our recourse after we get the as-built plan, if we see it and we see there's major discrepancies, is the board either needs to agree to waive those things or modify those things, or make the developer change them. And making the developer change them and fix things delays road acceptance. I mean, that's what this comes down to. So you guys need to understand that, again, the board's trying to work with you to get this process done quickly. That's why we allowed Saturday paving, that's why we had special meetings. All these things we're trying to do in order to get the paving done so the road can be accepted in the spring, right? The more, you can't have it both ways of, you want us to hold his feet to the fire for every single thing, but get the road accepted in the spring. It's going to be one or the other. So
I understand that. Well, then we may have to.
Like, where's my mailbox? Like,
it's
simple.
Then we may have to.
It's simple.
We appreciate.
Let's not talk over people, please.
Okay, sorry. We appreciate Larry Sidroni, 84 moderator. We appreciate the words by the selectmen, and we're all in agreement that this has to be done first and foremost properly. One of the earlier selectmen said, we paid, the prices we all paid for these homes was predicated on certain things being done, and that included the driveway. Bob's statement, he almost made a statement, I could do a gravel driveway. None of us bought in Bolton on Moderator Way to get a gravel driveway. So that's where this gets ridiculous. But if we have to get things done properly, and I hate these words, more importantly, things have to be done properly, even ahead of acceptance. I can't believe I just said that, but that is more important. There's so many things wrong that are going to take deep into the spring and early summer to get corrected. We all know that. And then we have to have a due diligence group watch him over, which I already stated, and I know was met with an agreement. So there's going to be a ton of coordination that has to take place to hold Rhino and Pace to doing their job properly, or else we'll be having these meetings July, August, September, and I know none of us want to be doing that, including you guys, and I understand.
I think we're 100% in agreement with exactly what you just said. I mean, I think, and this is why I brought this up about an hour ago, just I wanted both the residents and Bob to understand our reluctance, with moving forward with a recommendation, unfortunately, for the roadway acceptance for this year, just due to the significant issues that are still out there that need to be done. And we don't have a good comfort feeling with the construction right now. So that's mainly where we're at. So we can, I think we're all in agreement of the main priority is to get it done right. And we're going to try to move forward and hopefully in the springtime, hit this hard with understanding exactly what Bob's going to be doing, getting a schedule, making sure we've got Niche out there overseeing stuff, and getting coordinated, having coordination back and forth to understand exactly what's going to go on. So that way, hopefully, by June and stuff, this is looking good.
So this is Jason Hutchins from Lot 4. Just to close out the driveway with, what is the plan of action here? Because it doesn't actually meet the 12 feet requirement until you're about 80% up my long driveway, probably up to the 400-foot elevation mark. So what is the recourse here? Because as far as, I guess, we are notified that it's not the right width. Mark made some great points about he needs to uphold what he applied for in the permit. So if he applied for a 12-foot driveway, he should install a 12-foot driveway. So then what? Right? What action do we take from here?
So I would think, and Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, there's two choices really. We either push back on Bob to reinstall this as a 12-foot wide driveway, or we accept it as a minor modification to be reduced down to 10 feet. I believe.
I would hope that the justification for the acceptance is not, well, it's already done, so I guess we'll accept it wrong. There's got to be good justification
I think
for accepting it as a 10-foot wide driveway. Besides, well, he already did it wrong, so I guess we'll accept it, because that's a pretty poor precedence to set for the town planning board.
That's not what I was implying. What I was implying was that, first of all, we would discuss this as a board, that if it made sense to redo the whole driveway as 12 feet, then that's the push that we want to do for the developer. That's what we would do, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I know Erica has reached out to the fire department. My first concern would be does the fire department have a concern with the 10-foot width? Because if they did, that means we're leaning much more towards this needs to be replaced and be done as 12 feet. With the fire department giving us information that they are okay with a 10-foot, it gives us a little bit of leeway to potentially accept this revision. But that's my understanding are the two choices. I mean, I'd like to hear more from the board or Erica if there are, if I've missed another option.
Danielle, I would just say, I apologize. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I do agree that those essentially are the two options. And I just also want to relay, because I don't want there to be this, I don't want it to, for the residents to think that because it was done this way, oh, well, then we should just allow it to be that way. That was not my intent when I was talking about, the driveway width could be 10 feet versus 12 feet. I'm just, at the end of the day, what matters most to me is that we're upholding our bylaws and our regulations. So that's my intent. It's not that I'm not trying to hold his feet to the fire. That's not it.
And- I think, Danielle, in this case, so if I remember, we couldn't look at putting a berm in here to redirect the water because that would reduce the driveway to 9 feet.
Yeah,
So
yes, I believe-
there is, there are some other ramifications beyond just saying, well, it's currently 10 feet. Yeah, the fire department is okay with that. So, I mean, I think if it was 12 feet and we said, okay, we want to take a foot of that for berm, it still leaves 11. That's still comfortable for everybody. So and I think we need to look beyond just, a little bit beyond, just the, 10 versus 12, but what else are we trading off there?
Oh, I guess I didn't mean to imply that was the only thing we would look at. I mean, I think you need to look at the site, the length, the grading. I mean, I think there's, a lot of things I wasn't trying to minimize it just to looking at between 10 to 12. I guess that was what I was trying to get.
This is Liz from Lot 4 too. I just want to be clear too that like what is completely unacceptable is if Bob's choice to widen this driveway was just to like add a strip next to it.
Yeah, that would not be, that would not, that,
Okay.
yes. So I guess,
Yeah.
and that's where we would
Issues
want
with it,
to,
so I just want to make sure that that wouldn't be a problem.
yeah,
No,
we would
I
have an
mean-
issue with that because you're going to have, I mean, first of all, it's going to settle differently. You're going to have cracking. It's not going to connect right. I mean, if it's going to be 12 feet, it's got to unfortunately be completely redone as a 12-foot wide driveway.
And I also, my driveway, because it goes to 2 bays, it does get beyond 12 feet when you get close to the top because it goes to 2 driveways. And a saw cut right at the top when there's only a little bit left, at this point, it should just, if the board does decide that it needs to be redone, I also think that it should be it's a brand new house. It should be continuous driveway from the top all the way down, because the first thing that's going to happen is water's going to penetrate on a saw cut and it's going to start crumbling on the slope of the driveway, which is going to be the most dangerous part as going forward. I just want to make sure that Bob loves patchwork. He loves just throwing some dirt on it and calling it a day. And I want to make sure he does it the right way, niche engineering, because he never put a base layer. He never put anything down. It was just asphalt on dirt. That's how he did all the driveways in Monterey. I've watched
Same
him
with lot 5 over here. I
Yep.
had to
Just-
expand
it's
my own
just
driveway.
layer of driveway and then some dirt onto it. No base layer, nothing. It's just
Janky.
dirt and then asphalt.
Which doesn't follow the bylaws.
This is Brian from Lot 3. So the consequence of not having a berm on the driveway of Lot 4 is that it pretty much washes out our lawn. So that's extending the driveway to have enough room for berm would be critical for us for sure.
With lot 5. Just saying.
Yeah, the downwash from Lot 4 from the driveway hits Lot 3 and takes out quite a bit of our so we're definitely on board for having it extended and supporting that as much as possible.
Yeah, that's another good point.
We appreciate everything you guys have done. Please don't think we don't. The problems are just so vast that it is frustrating. I'm sure it's frustrating for you. We appreciate the selectmen's words. We do believe we're going to have to, as a neighborhood, meet with the selectmen and have a plan going forward that carries over to the town, because I don't know how we get into the spring and get this done correctly. It can't be Bob's plan. It has to be a cumulative plan that all are in agreement and everyone's watching over everyone, or else we'll be having this meeting next December.
10-4 from 79.
All right, well, I appreciate everyone's feedback and working with us. I know this was a long meeting. I know you guys are frustrated. We're working with you, and we're going to try to keep doing that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Not for us, just do it for our children. That's all.
Thanks a lot.
All
We
right, so we're
appreciate it.
gonna-
Merry
thank
Christmas to
you.
everybody.
Yes, Merry, have a happy holiday.
Merry Christmas.
All right, so we'll jump on to potential articles. I'm sure everyone.
Let's keep this brief or
I was
punt.
just gonna say, I think everyone is pretty much spent right now, so.
When's our next
I guess
meeting? Is it January?
It's not till January, so what is it we need, like, can we push some of this, or what's kind of the important stuff we need to just touch on tonight?
Sure.
And then
So
can we-
I think what would be beneficial, so just to sort of understand the process moving forward, we're going to have 2 meetings in January, and then the first meeting in February will be our public hearing. So there isn't a whole lot of time to work on these articles. So perhaps what the board could do between now and the next meeting, if you guys could take a look at that drafted accessory apartment bylaw and provide comments just to me. And then that way I could incorporate those comments for our next meeting, and we'd be that further ahead. If the board would be inclined to do that, that would be very helpful. And then maybe tonight, if you could just give me some direction on some of these other ones, so I know whether or not to draft something. So for the amended barn bylaw, does the board want to tackle that this year? I think given the fact that if we allow for detached accessory apartments under the apartment bylaw, that sort of makes the barn bylaw moot in some ways. So I don't know if the board wants to provide some additional flexibility there, perhaps make the barn bylaw accessory apartments as of right versus special permit. That's an idea. So I'm hoping that the board can give me a little direction on what direction you would like to take that, or if you'd like to table it until next year.
I mean, not wanting to drag this out too much, but I guess when we talked about the accessory apartments, we talked about size limits.
Mm-hmm.
But with the barn bylaw, where somebody would be renovating an existing barn, would we want different limitations there? Like if we look at like Brian's place, where it was the upstairs of a 3-car garage, which I think was bigger than what we were talking about as an accessory apartment, but it's an existing historic structure. So do we want, that would be the only place where I'd say we may want to tweak the barn bylaw sort of thing.
But in one sense, I wouldn't want to tweak it. I mean, I think the nice thing about the barn bylaw is it gives you the flexibility to do something with the existing structure. So I wouldn't want to limit them. And that does keep it set apart a little bit from the accessory apartment bylaw. Or are you saying you want to bring them?
But if the accessory bylaw, let's say, says 600 square feet maximum, just to pick a number, but an existing barn under the barn bylaw, it has, the hayloft that they're renovating is 1,200 square feet. Do we want different limits there than, for under the barn bylaw than under the accessory apartments?
We don't call out limits in the barn bylaw now, do we?
No, do we allow accessory apartments in the barn?
We don't allow apartments?
I said, do we?
We must. That's what we did. That's what we did for
That's
Brian.
what we did for Brian. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but if we're updating the accessory apartments to, to allow those by right, and we put size restrictions there, we'd have to make sure that those limits don't apply on the barn bylaw.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, how many people are going to use the barn bylaw for an apartment? I mean, you're talking about old structures. I mean, right, Brian's case was a unique case.
Yeah.
Because it had been rebuilt. But if we're really talking about barns from like the early 1900s, I mean, are many of those going to be livable? Like, has anyone come and made one of those into a living space besides what Brian did?
Right, not yet. We haven't had someone come forward. Here is the barn bylaw here, and to the reverse of that, we actually specify a minimum net floor area of 400 square feet in the structure.
I mean, in one sense, I'm almost thinking, let's maybe not touch the barn bylaw at all this year. Let's see if we can get the accessory apartment through this year. And then if it passes, we can address any discrepancies or what we feel maybe makes sense for the barn bylaw the following year. I'm just wondering if we're kind of putting too much, the only reason why we'd be revising this is if the accessory bylaw got passed. So rather than jump to that, let's just put this for the following year. Like you said, this isn't something where we're seeing, even one a year, maybe two, I don't think it's a big deal if we just push this to the following year and wait and make sure we actually get the accessory apartment bylaw passed first.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Okay.
Okay. So Erica, take that off your plate.
I think the next one on the list was Century Mill Road acceptance. Have we heard anything from any updates there?
No, he has not sent any updates regarding road acceptance items. So that's something that we should talk about tonight. In terms of giving him deadlines to submit things. I mean, he's got some really big hurdles to overcome. I apologize. I must have closed out of the agenda. Let me open it back up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was supposed to get us the information on the appraiser and appraisal for the affordable lots.
Yeah, I mean, he's been saying that literally for about a year and a half now.
I know.
And we've made zero progress on that. So I am very concerned that, we'll continue to not see progress. So let me share this again. Okay, sorry about that. So yes, so Century Mill Estates road acceptance. So the obvious big ones, paying the back taxes, the open space conveyance, and the affordable housing payment. So there's a lot of money involved with this. I think we were able to move forward and advance on the construction because we worked with him on doing that joint check agreement and using the bond money. So at this point, I think the ball's really in his court. He has the list of items that need to be completed. And it's really up to him at this point to come forward and get those things accomplished.
I was just gonna say, can you let him know that we basically need to know before our first January meeting, the status of them for us to be able to put forward a recommendation, like, give him the time frame. Like, we need to notify the Board of Selectmen by such and such a date. So we need to know that these items have been addressed in January so we can put forth that recommendation.
Yeah, and I think too, to add to that, in order to put forward that recommendation to planning board, I think these items just need to be addressed. I just don't have a comfort level, again, similar to Keys Farm, making any of these things contingent upon our recommendation.
Yeah, the selectmen are going to reject all. I mean, it doesn't matter what we recommend; they are going to reject it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If there's any contingencies like that, they're just going to reject it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Erica,
pulling the article, late in the game is more if we find a defect when we're investigating the paving after the winter or something like that. It shouldn't be the plan to hold their feet to the fire to get something done.
Erica, it's Vince LaRosa, 73 Oldstone. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi Vince.
Hi. So it's 9:45. I hopped on for the 8:30 agenda. So you all deserve a raise, first of all. I want that to be on the record, but I'll keep it very brief, but I do want to give you some updates. So we did have this conversation with Andy. I don't see him on here, and I can't speak for Andy, but I can talk about the meeting we had this week with the steering committee, which represents the essentially the neighborhood and our HOA. And we had this conversation with him. His concern is, he says he can get every item completed and he has no concern about getting those items completed. As a matter of fact, he said he'll get most items completed. His concern is he has reached out to the town about the taxes. He has no problem paying the taxes. However, what he has asked for apparently is some type of payment plan. And he told us that he was denied on that payment plan. Now that's between the town and Andy. I think what's important to all of us in this conversation, I'll keep it very quick, guys. Andy's concerned about completing any other items, even though he said he would. If the town is not going to give him a payment plan, he's not sure how he's going to be able to make this payment. He has stated that his personal house is up for sale. And once that house is sold, he'll be able to make the payments. But until then, he's just trying to make a payment plan with the town. The town is apparently saying no. And I think that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, and we're having some challenges with Andy getting these additional items completed. So I just want to share the feedback from the meeting we had this week with him. And I think we all have obviously we've had a lot of conversation about this, and we all have the same agenda here to get this thing completed. But I want to share where we were this week.
Thank you for the update. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
We're not privy to those conversations with regard to the taxes. So I don't know. I mean, that.
I mean, Danielle, what I can offer there is that the town has not outright said no to a payment plan. I think when they had the preliminary discussion regarding that, you know, maybe some of the terms and conditions of how we do payment plans were not agreeable to Andy. So I think it never really went too far beyond that preliminary conversation. I can't obviously speak too much more than that about it. At the end of the day, I think the town is obviously willing to accept any payments that Andy brings forward, but no payments have been made to date. So, you know, that's obviously concerning to us.
So Erica and the board, the last thing I would say is we have a yearly meeting with our community once a year. That meeting is on the 16th. So as we've said many times, I think this entire community and this neighborhood has, we all have the same interest in mind, right? So if there's anything we can bring to that meeting and we can bring up with Andy and the entire neighborhood on the 16th, next Wednesday, December 16th, we're all ears. Whatever we can do to help the situation, but I think there's only so much we can do. But we're all ears, and we're willing to help any way we can. But you know, we all want the same thing here.
Yeah, this is John Bylaw. It's from Cider Circle, 21 Cider Circle. So just to reiterate what Vince said, thank you guys for everything you do. I know you've worked hard to get us to where we are now. Kind of had a chuckle listening to Keys Farms going through the same problem after 2 years being frustrated. We're at 7 to 8 now.
I know they don't know anything, right?
so it's a long road.
I wanted to refer them over to you guys to say this is how you personally.
Yeah. So I mean, it's I totally empathize with them and the position you guys are in. So one thing I would say, and one thing that does frustrate me, it seems like this taxes piece is the biggest piece, right? Whether we can take Andy's word for it or not, that he can do the other pieces. You and I, everybody here knows we're not sure if that's true, but if we take his word for it, this taxes piece has kind of been kicked down the road for a long time. I mean, he owes nearly $400,000 from what I read from the tax collector, but this is personal tax. This is other things that's been allowed to continue for years and years while he's still constructing. So I think there's ways maybe we could have forced some of that to happen earlier. So just asking for some consideration. I don't know how much leeway or how much leverage you guys have with the tax collector, but I think, Erica, you sent a letter that made it sound like they were not willing to do anything. And I read that, and that puts us in a very bad spot where Andy's personal taxes on his house, which is the majority of this tax lien, you know, probably 2/3 of it, was allowed to happen. It wasn't on the developer, it was on him. If he never bought that house, it wouldn't have been, you know, to that level. So I think some of it falls, you know, within the management and allowing him to continue to kick the can down the road with some of the stuff. So we, as Vince said, we all want to just get past this and get the town the money that they can. Again, I know you don't want to take the bond, and I know there's not enough bond to cover even the tax that he has, but he has another 14 lots that you can lien as well. So I just want to say that, you know, anything that the town can do to leverage his property or anything of that nature that gets us past this I guess hurdle we have with his taxes, because you know from what I read of the punch list, the 9 construction items seem very light unless there's a report that I haven't read or from Niche. It seems like he's done a pretty decent job with the construction pieces, just some cleanup work, and then just handing over all the paperwork and doing that stuff. So as Vince said, if we can find some agreement, if we can help bridge the gap with the town, with the tax clerk, that could bring us a long way towards at least getting him to take steps to close the rest of the paperwork out.
Danielle, I would just like to say that I really appreciate what John is saying, and to be completely upfront about the taxes, that position's not going to change. I've had numerous conversations with the town treasurer, the tax collector, and that is just simply a requirement for road acceptance. That's not going to change. And I completely agree with you. Hindsight's always 20/20. I think that looking back and as we were advancing this this construction project, I'm sure there were things that we could have been a little bit more stringent on. Just for background, purposes, the way that we had handled it from building permit to building permit, because he had owed so much taxes and we wanted to see this project keep moving forward, we required him to pay the back taxes on each individual lot that he was seeking a release from the covenant of. So that's kind of how we were handling it. And unfortunately, it didn't get us to a place that we need to be today, unfortunately. So just to be upfront, I don't see that happening. And even if it did, I think it's really important to remember that this has to be approved by Board of Selectmen to get on the warrant. And then beyond that, it needs, a majority vote at town meeting. And I think we'd have to be very transparent in letting residents know that, this developer owes, a significant amount of money to the town. And I think a lot of residents may not be in favor, even if it got to that point, of potentially, voting in favor of this road acceptance. So I think there's so many hurdles to the back taxes, and that impacts open space too, because he owes back taxes on the open space, and that can't be conveyed until that's paid. The Bolton Conservation Trust won't accept, property that has a lien on it. So
yeah, that number was so low though, comparatively, right? And if I were to be honest, looking at the taxes that he's being taxed on his home, that should never have had occupancy, should have been taxed at an occupied house cost either. So I think he was probably misappropriately taxed for a house that, even though he was living in, he should have been living in, and he never should have been taxed at an occupancy level for that house. So I don't even think that number is appropriate. If it was going to turn into some sort of discussion and tax lawsuit from Andy in the town, I think the number for the open space was only like $7,000, if I remember correctly. So it's not a big number compared to the $390,000 that you probably have on his house that should have never been taxed at $1 million rate.
Well, he should never have been living there either. So
I 100% agree. I think we reported him a ton of times before he was kicked out.
But I mean, the money he owes on the affordable lot is pretty substantial too, because that's going to be 100,000 or so, depending on what we all end up agreeing on.
Erica, I think the one thing when the steering committee was able to take over and at least have a part of this was transparency, right? And we have a meeting next week, and that's what I'm asking for, if anything, and you guys do enough, and we know that, and I know it's late. But I think the transparency needs to be there, so at least the homeowners know what we're getting ourselves into. The one thing Andy has told us is that there has been no conversation, that they completely disregarded his request for a payment plan. So if that's not the case, I would love to be able to bring that up at the meeting next week. I think, whether the roads get approved or not, I think at least it's fair to every homeowner who pays taxes, knows what the real situation is, and not just what the trustee is telling us at an annual meeting, because that's one person's opinion versus what the town might be ruling on. So anything you could provide us to at least allow us to have a discussion with our neighbors, I think would be the most fair thing, if you'd be in agreement to that.
Yeah, what I would recommend doing, to be quite honest, is, because this is really out of my depth and jurisdiction, feel free to contact our tax collector, and I'm sure she can fill you in to the degree that she can, in terms of public information. That would be the best thing, because then it's straight from that particular department. I would hate for conservation to be answering planning board, questions, and just as an example. So that's why I think, if you contacted her directly, you'd get the best answer.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Thanks, Erica.
And Erica, if you want just to send a quick email, I think, and John, I think you touched upon this. I don't think that there are large construction items at all. I think the punch list items for construction are very, very small. I think we have 3 big items that we see as the hurdles to getting this. One is the affordable lot as you know, appraisal that we need to review. Second is the open space, which sounds like it's not that big of a deal, but it is just out there. And then 3 is the taxes. I think the rest of the items on there are minimal. So just as if you want to bring that information, I guess, back to your annual meeting, those are kind of the 3 items that we as a planning board see as the big items to kind of overcome for the road acceptance.
Yeah, and Danielle, I would just add to that too. It's minor in comparison to the larger items, but it's still very important. I do have an outstanding balance with Niche Engineering with the inspections that they did for this recent construction work. And obviously we want to get that paid. And he has definitely fought me on that. So I'm very concerned that I'm not going to get that money anytime soon. So that, you know, it's a small number. I think it's around $5,000. I need to send an email to Andy with an update on that number, but that certainly does have to get paid.
He went line by line with every item. There's a lot of financial concerns. The one thing he really did kind of push off was the appraisal. He said he's been really trying hard to get someone to come out here for an appraisal, and he has not been able to get anyone. So I just want to pass that back. Again, it's really hard to kind of do checks and balances with certain things like that. But
I mean, I just can't. I don't buy that one for a second. Right? Every home transaction that goes through some sort of an appraisal process.
Yep.
It's that's the one that I buy the least from him.
Mike, I appreciate your comments, and that's, you know,
Yeah. To be quite honest, when we did the first appraisal, we took sort of the action on that because he wasn't doing it. So we hired the appraiser, and to be honest with you, it wasn't that hard. You know, I think I got 3 different appraisers. We agreed on one, and we moved forward with it. So you know, I don't know that I buy it either.
So last thing for me, sorry, Mark.
I was going to say the appraisers may be busy. I know from some other things, you know, that they are pretty busy, but you know, even if it's a few months out, you know, that they'd be doing it. I mean, it's just something that he's got to get somebody and get it in place and moving along. I mean,
we're a year and a half.
He knows it's a gating item.
Oh, we know, guys. So to put a bow, thanks, guys, and to put a bow on this one, would your recommendation then be just to reach out to the town tax collector to get some better information, something maybe more formal that we can bring to our meeting next Wednesday?
I think that would be great. I'm sorry, I'm speaking for the board. I didn't mean to do that.
No, I agree. I think that seems reasonable.
I think that would be reasonable. I think also, you know, it may be encourage Andy to take himself out of the discussion and have his accountant or lawyer talk to the tax collector, you know, because what Andy hears and what's actually said don't always, you know, aren't always quite the same thing.
Yeah.
So having somebody who's an expert in that could really, you know, present it to him properly might go a long way too.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Yeah. The problem is finding somebody who'll work for him for free because he owes too much money. Anyhow, so just I don't know, just one, if I can just address one thing. So Erica, you had already sent that stuff from the tax collector. I don't know if Vince was on that email or not, so I'll forward that off to him as well. But is there, I'm just trying to think for our meeting, is there ever any, you guys probably would want to do it. I was just wondering if there's ever any position where somebody from the planning board or somebody from the town would attend an HOA yearly meeting to present what's required in front of the residents. I mean, you see me and Vince every time these meetings happen, but the other 47 residents don't tend to show up because they think we're doing it all. It's always nice for them to hear from somebody else other than us. I don't even know if that would be allowed by town or by the HOA, but I was just kind of floating it out there.
I don't know.
We're not usually high on the invite list for anything like that.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking about just ways to present what's required to get the road accepted. But I guess Vince and I can put that together as just, you know, on behalf of the town from what we hear from you guys. I forget that I even asked. That's just putting you guys on the spot. You don't want to.
You don't all have to raise your hands at once. So, you know,
But we do also want to say that, like, again, I think the board is pretty amenable to like trying to get this done. Like that's really the position we've taken with you and with Keys Farm and with other developments. But I guarantee if this comes to the selectmen and they're open items, they're just going to say no. I mean, that's just kind of how they work. So that's why we're really trying to button everything up here. I mean, especially the taxes thing, like they're just not going to wave on that.
I was gonna say, I think that there's some things that they would defer to the, the planning board to, some of the punch list items they would defer to us. I think something like taxes or the transfer of the open space in zone 1 areas to the appropriate entities and such. I don't think they would, I think that'll be a sticking point for the selectmen.
Yeah, I get it. I can see bankruptcy in the future. Then there's no tax money to just talk about, but I guess that's a different bridge. Okay, so I think we can take that back to our
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think just going back to our articles, I think we've exhausted the road acceptance ones. We are throwing out the barn bylaw till the following year. The amended driveway bylaw, I think that's something minor, Erica, right, that we've already.
Yeah, and I've actually had some really good conversations already with our new DPW director about that. I took him to Century Mill Estates. We went to Keys Farm. We looked at the various driveways, and generally speaking, he feels the same way as the previous DPW director, is that he doesn't want the runoff from the driveways entering into the road, primarily because he's concerned that if the crown in the road isn't sufficient enough, then you're going to have that runoff going across the road and freezing and having significant icing. So, and I can completely understand that. That's a very, I could see how that could be concerning. But he also understood some of the challenges that the planning board faces. So he's very much low impact development. He'd like to see, future developments have less asphalt berm, more, swales along the sides of the road, things like that. And he understands that sometimes there are driveways that, to the maximum extent practicable, the developers try to divert that runoff and it's just not feasible. So he gets that, and he understands that the board may at times need to allow runoff to go to the road. So that's kind of where we left it. He didn't necessarily think that we needed to amend the driveway bylaw as it is now. It's really just a case by case basis. And I think I agree with them. Maybe we just handle it case by case. So.
All right, well then we'll take the driveway bylaw amendment off.
We still felt that was an interpretation issue, right? And not necessarily explicitly where we could have specified something along the lines of the planning board shall have the authority to, on a case by case basis.
Yeah. And I think that was it, is we felt that it could be interpreted 2 different ways, and maybe we should clarify that. But if we're going to be doing this on a case by case basis, I don't think there's any clarification that needs to be happening. We'll just move forward with that assumption.
Yeah, so I think more than not, what we need to be doing is really thinking about considering the issues that we've had at Keys Farm, the issues that we've had at Century Mill with driveways, is really fine tuning the process of when we get driveway applications. Maybe, when we talk about these subdivisions, maybe it needs to go before the board. Maybe we need to have a peer reviewer taking a look at them as they're being constructed. I mean, I think there are things that we need to, just in terms of our process, maybe we need to fine tune so that we don't have these issues after the fact. So, I
mean, does the building inspector look at?
It's typically the DPW director. So when I started here in Bolton, Harold Brown was the DPW director. He was doing the inspections. And then he just was very busy and didn't necessarily have time. So he'd asked me if I would start doing them. So I was doing them for a period of time. And then when Joe Lynch started, he wanted to take that back over. So then he was doing the driveway inspections. And so now, I don't know. I didn't have that conversation with Randy yet. And that's the part that I think we need to figure out, okay, what's the best way of doing this? Because obviously at the end of the day, we want DPW satisfied as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. But did Joe Lynch inspect that driveway at Keys Farms?
Yeah, so typically what would happen is he would do they would request for occupancy. So we would take a look at the driveway. He would go out, inspect it. That's how the whole, swale came about. You need to do the runoff. That was part of the driveway application. I'm sorry, I kind of misspoke there. I was part of the driveway application process. And then he did the inspection. Once he signed off, I would sign off. So I'm thinking now that may not be the best approach. So we'll have to figure out what's the best way to do that to make sure that this doesn't keep happening.
Okay. Is that a bylaw or is that a rules and regs?
I think it's just a process question of
okay.
how we do it. Because quite honestly, when I was doing the inspections, I wasn't really looking at the driveway width because it's not it's not really when you look at the bylaw, I understand now that the board doesn't feel this way, but when you look at the bylaw and the regulation, it doesn't spell it out. So I wasn't necessarily concerned about that. So that's something now I know the board is, would like it to be exactly per the plan. So we'll handle that.
Okay, and then, so we're gonna remove that one, and then the last one is just the light pollution bylaw.
Yeah, so this one, I think this is a longer conversation. I did pull the light pollution bylaw from Stowe. It's pretty detailed. It has a lot to do with the amount of lumens that are being given off by various light fixtures. And then it talks about downlit fixtures. And so it gets into a lot of that detail. And depending on, how many lumens you're projecting, you may need a special permit from planning boards. And it applies to all zoning districts, not just like commercial, it's residential too. So I think that's a discussion for another night. I mean, we could spend quite a bit of time.
Yeah. So is it gonna be too late if we push that one to the first meeting in January?
Not necessarily. I mean, what I can do is, I think I sent the Stowe bylaw to you, and if I didn't, I apologize. I think I did, but I can resend it. And if you want, I'll try to provide some additional sort of supportive information. So that way, if the board members could sort of chime in again prior to the next meeting saying, I don't know, I could even potentially draft something to look at the next meeting if you'd prefer to go that direction, if this is something that's really important to you guys. I just don't want to spend my time drafting it. Well, it's not wasted time, because even if it's not this year, it could be next year. So
yeah, I would think
me to draft it.
Yeah, if you could go ahead and draft it, and if we end up pushing it to next year, because I think whether we do it this year or next year, it is something that we should look at and do. And if we can get it done this year, that would be great. And then we'll look at what we can.
Yeah, so you said Stowe had a bylaw around this?
They do, yeah.
Yes, so I mean, if you could either send that or send kind of the highlights of that, because I mean, I think the only thing we need to think about is would this significantly impact residents? So like, would this really require changes to people, or is this just kind of like dotting I's and crossing T's?
I think it's more that. My only concern is enforcement. And maybe perhaps that would be easy. I don't know now, I don't know if it's a matter of the building inspector going, we've received a complaint. Can I please see the type of light bulb you're using in your floodlight? Does it meet the requirement? I don't know if it's as silly as that. I just don't know. And maybe that
light squad is coming out for you.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know that the building inspector wants to take that on, to be quite honest with you. That's that could be potentially a lot of work. So
and
I don't know if it's worth it.
Sorry, does that affect only new construction, or would that be existing?
For the way Stowe has written theirs, it's everything.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
you're not grandfathered. Yeah.
I think the intent is to have it to be for existing, because it's really more of a protection bylaw to not have all of these, big lights all of a sudden, someone puts in. So I think it just, if it gets passed, it gets put in for the existing, how it is right now, type of thing.
Yeah.
And if it's like triggers a special permit, it's a whole other level of submission. Then you start looking at those lighting plans with the lux with how many lumens per square foot or meter. I don't know what it is, but it starts to get a lot more complicated. So
yeah,
it's pretty intense.
How does that work with something like the baseball field just put in lights, right? The basketball court, things like that. You need some sort of over lighting. I have a hockey rink I build, and I put a spotlight out so my kids can play at night. I don't want to be told I can't turn on lights so my kids can skate at night.
No, so what it's really going after is kind of, does the light spill across property lines? You know,
Okay.
and certainly you're allowed to do something on your own property, but it's really where that light spillage goes across property lines. That's really what this is kind of getting at. So it's if you put a big light, and you're just doing it within your, your property, and it's high, it's got a light to just highlight that. I think that's completely fine. We're not trying to limit that. It's really the spillage. If you were to put in this big light, floodlight, and it's going, it's lighting up 2, 3, 4 lots or something like that, where that's where it's kind of what we're trying to look at.
I got you. I think we should had that whole discussion about our light at our entryway of our development for like 2 years, and I knew that took forever. So I wasn't sure if I had to have lights that had to be covered up and just could point down and can't do this, can't do that for anything. It just seemed like it was overkill.
Maybe you could put something in about permanent versus temporary. Like, because I know we have a neighbor too that has a skating rink with a light, and it's just temporary, so it's not an issue.
Yeah, so the Stowe's bylaw does have certain exemptions. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but for example, one is like holiday decorations. Like that gets exempt, things like that. So certainly there are things in there that we could exempt if we feel it's appropriate. But
and maybe you put like 11 p.m. or something like that, or on a temporary, or I don't know.
It's something that we can certainly look at. And lumens has to do with the brightness of the light, and with Stowe, depending on how many lumens, if you get to a certain threshold, then it has to be downlit. So I completely agree with Danielle. It has to do with, spilling over onto neighboring properties. We want to minimize or even just cut that out. So.
Yeah, the intent was not to dictate what people could or couldn't necessarily do, on their properties, to an extent. It was really the light spillage onto other people's properties. But we can, so if you want to put a draft of that there, Erica, we'll start looking at that at the next meeting. All right. I don't want to keep you guys on here.
Is Stowe the only town that you found that has something like this, Erica, or are there some others?
I can certainly look for others. What I'll do is on the Mass Planners listserv, I will send out an email to them, because that's such a specific thing, and I honestly I've never seen it anywhere. I will put it out and see if other planners can chime in whether or not their town has it, because Stowe right now is the only one, and I only know that because that resident had brought it forward. So, but I can certainly keep looking.
Yeah, it'd be good if we could compare it with some others. All right, it's after 10. It's 10:14. I know everyone wants to go to bed. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Okay. And actually, everyone have a happy holidays, because probably won't see you until after the first of the year.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.